Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to DeMusliM versus Beastyqt. This is the final round of the Swiss stage of the $100,000 N4C tournament. We are starting off with a Rus versus French matchup over here. Spawning on the right side is going to be DeMusliM playing as the Rus in blue. And down south, it is going to be the French in the hands of Beastyqt. The map that we are starting with is High View, a map that Rus really love to play on, as you already see a bit of a scuffle for the huntables between the two players. We'll be having quite a lot of scout dancing over here as the players are trying to isolate one of the deers. And then, of course, the French player trying to deny as much hunt from the opponent's Rus, whereas the Rus player trying to maximize the amount of bounty available here. As one of the scout of our red player, Beasty, is dancing around over there, he's trying to find some wolves to aggro, of course, because while the deer is definitely a good source of gold with the bounty system, your main takeaway is, of course, going to be the wolves on this map. So you're trying to aggro as many wolves as you can. For this, you need to scout the map quite rapidly, and as you see, Beasty is operating with 2 scouts, which is almost mandatory when you're playing against the Rus. You need to make sure you minimize the amount of accessible bounty for them. Speaking of which, currently it's only 45 for DeMusliM, so he wasn't particularly successful gathering a lot of huntables around that scout. He's taking down the hunt close to his base right now, as we're going to have just one wolf being aggroed, but so far he was quite unsuccessful finding the wolves. Now, I didn't see Beasty aggroing a lot of wolves either, so I'm suspecting that all of those predators are still lying around the map, and it is DeMusliM's ones to find. Looks like he's going to aggro a couple more, and finally, he's on track towards that second level of bounty, because he just aggroed 3 wolves over here. He's got one trailing this scout, and I think there's a scout up north that's also being trailed by 1 or 2 wolves. So this is going to be quite a lot of bounty to work with here for him. In the end, started out a little slow, but now he's aggroing quite a lot of predators, so he should have no trouble getting to that tier 2 bounty. Look at that! All of those wolves were clustered up on the right side, and that scout will be trailed by 6 wolves, I think. Is it 6 or 5? It's at least 5, but it could possibly be 6. Even if it's 5, that's 125 gold trailing that one scout over there. Looks like the wolf did not de-aggro over here. Town Center will take it down, so now DeMusliM is going to start really leveraging that Rus bounty system, getting that bounty up nice and high. He should have no trouble reaching tier 2, and he should be in the range of like 325-ish once he gets all the deer killed, and of course all the wolves lured in. Looks like on the right side, the deer patch wasn't really touched by DeMusliM. Normally, when you have 1 or 2 wolves trailing your scout, you would just go for the deer patch and just let the wolves hit your scout. But when you have 5 wolves hitting your scout, you don't really have the time to stop and kill deer. So this is something that DeMusliM has to come back for. For now, he's dancing around with the scout of Beasty, but I would think that both players will try to bring in a second scout so they can one-shot the deer here. Bit of a scout dancing coming in. No blue scout on the horizon, aside from the one that's already out here. Looks like DeMusliM will get 10 gold from there. He managed to kill all the wolves, so he's up to 320. Every bit of extra gold that he gets from bounty after this one is just a cherry on top. Looks like someone was switching Windows' language here from our observer. Probably a wrong hotkey or something like that pressed. 2 more deer still alive, and there is going to be another scout coming in here for DeMusliM. Once he has that, he can just one-shot deer, and he's going to be fine with it. A very nice accomplishment, getting to 340, 350 bounty over here. Indeed, he takes down 1, and he should be able to take down the last one. Beasty realizes that he cannot really prevent that, so might as well just disengage. Golden Gate coming in here for DeMusliM. He's got a pretty nicely placed hunting cabin as well. And on the other side, I would assume we're looking at the School of Cavalry, and the first question is whether or not DeMusliM will also play his knights. Because that's something that the Rus can do, but the Rus knights play is much weaker than the French knights play. French knights are more powerful in feudal age, and of course you can heal them up with chivalry, whereas that's not something that you can do for the Rus. Looks like there is going to be a technology being researched on the mill of Beastyqt. That is wheelbarrow that's coming in. I wonder if he's also gonna go professional scouts. I would think no, but it's a possibility. Meanwhile, a barracks is being dropped by DeMusliM, so he's expecting the knights to come in. He's also dropping a defensive tower on his wood line, and let's see what Beasty has on his mind. With the French, he could definitely justify going for professional scouts, especially if he knows or suspects that the Rus player wants to go for that. Because if he's not really contesting the map control that much, the Rus player would just scoop up all the hunt. So, might as well go for professional scouts yourself, especially given the fact that you have a discount on it being French. He's still mining gold, and it looks like indeed here comes professional scouts for Beasty. He doesn't have a ton of scouts right now, but he will probably just add it after the first knight pops out. Early blacksmith coming in for him, which means that he's only going to play with knights for the time being. If he expected spearman, he would actually go for an archer range here. So he isn't really expecting the spears right now. He's expecting his opponent to play with knights as well. And in a knight war, the blacksmith make a lot more sense than an archer range, because with the blacksmith, the French will get the attack upgrade for free. So in this scenario, Beast is unlikely to expect the barracks out here from the opponent, which means that DeMusliM is going to have no trouble holding off those first knights that are coming towards his base. Professional scouts 30 seconds away here for Beasty. He's ready to scoop up his first patch of huntables. Here comes the knight. Villager is going to be under attack, but it jumps into the tower, and it looks like DeMusliM is going to do spearman defense into second town center, a build that sort of got repopularized by this tournament. This was a build that wasn't extensively used for a long time, and now this is becoming a very frequent occurrence. Looks like Beasty is going to face some pressure from the scouts of DeMusliM here. He's going to get harassed on the gold mine. Not really a terrible scenario right now for him. Bit of an annoyance, but he should have no trouble dealing with that. One thing to consider is that the scouts do a lot of damage to opponent scouts. So one thing that DeMusliM can do, having free scouts and not going professional scouts, is harassing the opponent scouts trying to pick up those carcasses. Because even just having free scouts over there could give a window for DeMusliM to potentially kill 1 or 2 scouts from the opponent and slow down his opponent gathering the carcasses. Second town center up and running here for DeMusliM, whereas on the other side, looks like we're going to have double archer ranges being placed here, and that's a fast siege engineering upgrade for Beasty. He wants to go aggressive. He's realizing that, oh shoot, my opponent is booming away with 2 town centers. I need to do something about that. But the problem that he's facing over here, and this is going to be quite concerning, is that he doesn't really have the escort for those rams that will be made. He will have some archers, but right now he's researching a technology that he won't be able to immediately leverage. Looks like 1 knight was taken down. This is the first time that DeMusliM is going to see the archers of the opponent. Looks like he's going to jump on that with the spears. He actually gets some nice hits going, but ultimately the spearmen will be picked apart by the archers. That's going to be potentially 1 archer being picked off, though. That would be a little sloppy from Beasty to let that guy get killed. But it looks like it is going to be the scouts of DeMusliM getting pushed back into his base. And now the spearmen are also being pushed back. DeMusliM currently has 2 less villagers than his opponent. Part of the fact, of course, is that the French player does have the faster training villagers. So because of that, he was able to build up a villager lead. But that is slowly shrinking. DeMusliM will eventually take over when it comes to villager count. First table up for DeMusliM, and now he's playing with Horseman Spearman, a unit composition that is definitely effective against the Knights and Archers play from the French. And given the fact that Beasty is playing double archer ranges, for DeMusliM, the priority should be to go for a large amount of Horsemen. Spearman isn't going to be as significant as Horseman numbers will be. Horseman now popping out from 2 stables for DeMusliM. He doesn't have a single blacksmith upgrade, whereas on the other side, range defense is coming in for Beasty. So he's expecting archers potentially from the opponent, or he wants to dive underneath those towers or town centers. But that upgrade isn't going to be really helpful in an open field battle, because his opponent is going to have horsemen and spearmen. Looks like the scouts of Beasty are somewhat idle right now. They could definitely continue picking up the carcasses, as Beasty is building up a force to fight this one. One thing that DeMusliM could do is mix in on a couple of knights himself, because while of course his knights aren't going to be as effective as the French knights, if Beasty is going mostly on archers, 1 or 2 knights can be immensely helpful to soak up arrow fire, and it looks like now DeMusliM is moving out with the horseman. He's going to intercept the reinforcements, picks off 1 archer, will be able to pick off a second one. Having those scouts mixed into that army helps a lot for him acquire targets, and it looks like he's going to commit against that archer. Now he sees the ram being built, and it looks like he's motivated to jump on this one. Spearmen are also being pulled into this battle. Horsemen now join the party, and the spearmen will be able to focus down the knights. Horseman numbers are the key over here, and I think that DeMusliM has the critical mass, and indeed, that ram is going to be denied. Horsemen will clean up most of the archers here from Beasty, and this is a disaster so far for Beasty. He's going to lose the majority of his archers. he's going to lose the majority of his cavalry. The spearmen have been all taken down by the archers, so currently there is nothing that really kills those knights, but the numbers advantage are so much in the favor of the Muslim that he can just surround that knight and overrun it with more horsemen. Looks like another fight is being won over here by the Muslim. One knight came in from Beastyqt trying to get some raiding going, but that did not succeed either. And if you looked at the kill-death ratio, that would be quite spectacular for the Muslim. But what would be even more spectacular is the amount of army value that he destroyed versus the amount of army value that he lost. Unfortunately, we don't have an indicator for that in Age of Empires 4, but that would be very favorable for the Muslim. He was using spearmen and horsemen, rather cheap units, units that don't even cost gold. As compared to Beastyqt, he lost quite a lot of archers, archers that have been upgraded with multiple blacksmith upgrades. Beastyqt invested into the ranged attack and ranged defense upgrade. Now he's going for the melee defense upgrade, and he also invested into the siege upgrade, and he also lost quite a lot of knights. So Beast's investment into his army was quite big, and he wasn't able to leverage that at all. And now this is getting concerning. Because despite the fact that the Muslim only has 4 villagers lead right now, Beastyqt invested a lot into an army that wasn't able to accomplish anything so far. Speaking of which, this is going to be a nice raid by that knight. I think the villagers are actually fighting back over there because there is nothing else that the Muslim can do. He should probably fight back. That knight isn't that powerful. He's going to lose 1 or 2 villagers anyways, but it looks like he's just going to make a run for it. And you see that the knight has so limited line of sight in the stout forest that the villagers can just get away. That's a nice move over there from the Muslim in the end. He ran into the stout forest and the knight wasn't able to keep track of those villagers. Now this is something that you have to be careful about now, because the Muslim is expanding towards those hunts as we speak, which means that knights could start getting some raids going. The Muslim also has a good farming eco, so even if he gets cut off from the hunt, it's not a disaster because he has a fallback option, but he could really use a defensive tower on that hunt, because he needs to ensure that raids aren't going to be harassing his villagers out there. He's got a 5 villagers lead right now, and he's building a tower on that far right hunt as we speak. He's got some berries on the north as well. Those are unprotected, but they're sort of hidden in the stout forest all the way at the north. It's somewhat unlikely that Beast is going to attack them at the beginning. Looks like 2 more battering rams are being made right now by Beastyqt. He's got all 4 blacksmith upgrades and he's sending a knight to the right side. That could be arrow slits potentially coming in here for the Muslim, and it looks like his berry villagers will be exposed to this one. I love the way that Beastyqt is using his knights. He's probing those resource deposits. Food on the hunt, food on the berries, and every once in a while he's sending in one knight, checking out if any enemies are there. It's possible that the Muslim isn't there, but if he is, you have the option to pick off 1 or 2 villagers, as we could see just a second ago. The other accomplishment of this one is that it pulls away the cavalry to the left side of the Muslim, and this gives a window for Beastyqt to push this one. A rather large window, to be honest, because here come the rams, and they are going to target those stables that are keeping the Muslim alive, because they are the ones producing the cavalry that he needs to stop the archers. And you see, as the Muslim is distracted, on the right side you see the push of that knight coming in. Villagers are idle underneath the tower for the Muslim, and now he's losing villagers left and right here. Lost the villagers on the hunt, lost some villagers on the wood line, he's losing that defensive tower as well, and suddenly things are looking better and better for Beastyqt. Cavalry charge now coming in here for our blue player, the Muslim, but that's a lot of spearmen to deal with, and there is no direct answer here for the Muslim for those. That's a ton of hardened spearmen that you got over there for Beastyqt, and he's starting to pick off all the horsemen. The Muslim is trying his best to get a good surround on the archers. Archers now focusing down the villagers that were sent to take down the battering rams. 1 battering ram falls, but the entire army of the Muslim is sacrificed in this battle. All those horsemen, some knights that were also mixed in, and you see, at this point, the Muslim is only fighting with villagers. His berries on the north were raided, his hunt on the right side was raided, and the problem for the Muslim right now is that he's sitting at 2 army. In just a blink of an eye, his army vanished, and his eco is now collapsing. The key thing here was the fact that he had no answer to the spearman, and now he's trying to repair the tower, but he's out of wood, so he isn't going to be able to afford it. Villagers once again being pulled to take down the battering ram. Battering ram survives for the time being, villagers jumping back into the tower. Meanwhile, some reinforcements are coming in, and now look at the army numbers. Beastyqt is going full feudal over here, and once again, as his opponent is distracted defending his own base, he is going to send in a knight to the right side, and he's likely going to get 1 or 2 villager kills on that hunt, because DeMusliM is distracted with the defense. One stable goes down here from DeMusliM. The problem right now for him is that he doesn't have wood to work with, so he can't really add horsemen. He needs to start adding knights, but those take a lot of time to train, and it looks like DeMusliM is going to tap out of this one. Beastyqt steamrolling his base with the battering rams. Beastyqt waited quite a long time for him to get the critical mass, and for a long time it really seemed like Beastyqt wasn't gonna be able to push DeMuslim's base. The key thing, however, was that Beastyqt was able to mix in the spearmen. And that was a unit that DeMusliM had no answer to. DeMusliM was playing with his own cavalry and spearmen, but if you look at Beastyqt's unit composition, it was spearmen, archers, and cavalry. And with good micro, he can use his own archers to pick off the spears from DeMusliM. And the most important thing is that it's difficult for DeMusliM to get rid of the spearmen belonging to Beastyqt. So Beastyqt's spearmen were able to inflict a lot of casualties on the cavalry of DeMusliM, and he took one decisive fight, in which he takes down the entire army of DeMusliM, and from that point on, he's the one pressing the opponent's base. Behind that one, of course, he also did some successful raids on those food deposits, and with that, he snowballed the game out of control. Looked so good for DeMusliM, but in the end, Beastyqt built up an army, built up a critical mass, and then unleashed it on the opponent's base. He takes game number 1 over here. Welcome back to DeMusliM versus Beastyqt. We are going to have game number 2 with Beastyqt having the Mongols on the southern part of the map in red, and to the north it is going to be DeMusliM playing as the blue HRE. The map is Hillandale, a map where the HRE civilization is very popular. That's your meta pick. And at the beginning of the tournament, especially during the qualifiers, the players try to counterpick that with the Delhi Sultanate. Of course, the Delhi is now pretty much always banned, so that's not going to be an option. So we have seen the emergence of the Mongols being, to a certain extent, a counterpick to an HRE play. And now, Mongols is one of the most popular civilization selections on this map. Of course, there's a huge trade-off, that being the fact that you can't wall your base, which means that your base is a lot more raidable. But you also are able to put up a ton of early aggression. That could be with towers, that could be with spears, and that's exactly what we're going to see here from Beastyqt. And that could set your opponent back quite a bit and make it very difficult for the HRE player to collect relics. Speaking of which, in terms of relic distribution, this is an awkward map. You have 2 relics that are very close to the base of Beastyqt, 2 relics very close to the base of DeMusliM, and then 1 in an absolutely neutral ground. Barracks already coming out for Beastyqt, and you could see for a brief moment that DeMusliM already started walling up the front of his base. He knows very well that the tower rush is a realistic possibility here. And here, indeed, is the villager moving forward. Only 1 villager is being pulled. Khan sort of trailblazing the way in front of him, and that is going to be a wall coming up. Now, keep in mind that this wall is next to a forest, which means that you can chop through this one. And I wonder if DeMusliM has vision on that wall. Because if he doesn't have vision on that wall, he might not even see the enemy chopping through. I think the town center should give him sufficient line of sight to spot a chop through attempt, but you gotta wonder if that's something that Beastyqt will attempt, or he will just move in on the left side. Now notice the woodline positions here for DeMusliM. Both of those are on the left side, with absolutely no backups on the right side. Which means that the Mongol tower rush could be very effective over here, with the tower being placed on those woodlines. And you gotta wonder if DeMusliM is actually expecting this, because DeMusliM hasn't scouted the opponent's base yet. He doesn't know about the barracks, and you probably expect some sort of Dark Age aggression from the Mongols, but maybe you're hoping that by having that wall up front, you can slow it down quite a bit. Feudal Age already on the way here. For DeMusliM, he's going up with the Aachen Chapel, as we're going to see a tower being dropped. Now is the big question. Can DeMusliM see that? I think he can, or at least he should be able to, based on the town center line of sight. If he can still respond to that. But if that tower goes up, he could be in trouble, and he cannot see that. That's a perfect tower placement over there for Beastyqt. He's just outside the line of sight of the opponent, and do I see stone being mined here by DeMusliM? Now that's a little surprising. Would he play 2 town centers? That would be one of the most surprising builds I've seen with HRE here. It's not a bad build, but of course with the HRE you usually don't want to rush up multiple town centers because you just want to go fast castle into fast imp. into the Palace of Swabia. But guess what? The Muslim probably sensed that there is something coming his way, and he is going to see that villager getting surrounded. The tower is incomplete here for Beasty, and it looks like the villager for now is going to get pushed back with the defensive tower coming up here for the Muslim. I wonder if Beasty will just run a circle around this one, sending in the Spearman. The tower is so close to completion that you could still rush it up, and indeed with the Spearman coming in, this villager from Beasty might be able to finish the tower. You need to finish that tower here, otherwise this is an absolute disaster, and it looks like Beasty won't be able to finish it. Now it's going to be a villager here from the Muslim potentially being picked off, but the Muslim should be able to swing that sword on the scout, and he's going to take down the villager here, gets away with the scout, and gets away with the villager. Huge win here for the Muslim so far. This Dark Age aggression for Beasty is not paying off at all, and now the Muslim is going to be able to just sit back, use the Aachen Chapel, and use his superior eco. Looks like he didn't mine a ton of stone and he has no more mining camps on it either, which means that this will just be purely for defensive towers and arrow slits emplacements. Indeed, the Muslim is now down to 4 stone, but that tower is going to prevent Beasty from getting that tower up ever in the base of the Muslim, and now Beasty is gonna have to completely readjust his game plan, because his entire game plan started with the fact that he's doing a lot of damage in Dark Age, and that he wasn't successful in. Spearman now moving towards the gold mine over here. That's the best thing that Beasty can do right now. Burn down the gold mine, make sure that the opponent isn't really able to access a ton of gold, thereby delaying the castle age timing of the Muslim. And for the Muslim, he needs to make an archer range to deal with those spears. That's already completed. First 2 archers should be able to push away those spears. And with that, the Muslim's base is going to be super safe. Behind this one, Feudal Age is on the way for Beastyqt. He is keeping 1 spearman on the left side, preventing a future war, so he wants to keep this base as open as possible. And it looks like the Muslim is pulling a villager to repair that mining camp. You could also use the emergency repairs if the mining camp is within the influence radius of the town center, but I don't think it is, so you're going to have to manually repair that with the villager. And now, villager is being sent to the right side as well to get the walls up. I would expect something similar on the left side, and oh, look at that! That's gonna be a silver tree. So Beasty is basically saying, look, you are going to be booming within your base. If you're not contesting map control, I will be trading. And we have seen such an attempt yesterday. I think that was Mista who tried this one. It wasn't against HRE. I think it was against Abbasids. And it was an open map. And what he basically said is that, look, I will get the trade going. And that trade returns the investment really fast. In fact, it could be more effective than the HRE eco here, potentially. The concern that you have is that this trade is a high-risk, high-reward situation. You lose access to that neutral market, you have no chance of getting anything out of your trade. And those neutral markets are quite exposed on this map. Silver tree booming with the Mongols is a thing in team games on Hillandale, because if you have a teammate that can build a market on that hill, then you can just boom regardless of what happens. It looks like the spearman will be walled in here. The villager gets away from the battlefield. Archer should be able to take these spearmen down. The spearman decided to commit against that villager, but that will just mean that the villager gets away, and now the spearmen are sort of trapped inside the base of the Muslim. I don't know if that was the right decision here for Beasty. He probably just wanted to kill the villager with leftover spears, so I don't blame him, but in the end those spears won't be able to accomplish much. Scout of the Muslim now moving up. This will be the first time that he will see the silver tree. I'm curious to see how much trade income those traders will be able to bring in. And it looks like now the spearman will be picked off, and with that the walls will be complete for the Muslim on all sides. So now the Muslim is working towards going for Castle Age, and then probably going for some Lancers. Now, as you see, Beasty is going to have to start adding some army, because, as I said, your trade boom is a high-risk, high-reward scenario. Which means that you need to have army to protect it. If you don't, and the Muslim just has 3 horsemen, you will probably lose all your trade cards. The Muslim is still yet to find the silver tree, although it looks like he now has vision on it, and with that, he should see that his opponent is trading. Scout is going to get a nice hit on that con. For now, the traders are working quite effectively, also affected by the YAM speed, and it looks like the Muslim is going to lose that scout, which is obviously going to hurt. Ragnitz Cathedral on the way, however, and one thing that Beast doesn't really have is army on the battlefield. We're talking about 1 military unit for him, And that means that if we see 1 or 2 knights from DeMusliM, he should be able to contest map control. And we talked about the relic positions. 2 relics are pretty much guaranteed for the HRE player over here. And the real question is whether or not he can secure the one on the right side. The other 2 should be too close to Beasty's base. That would be quite a challenge to secure. 111 gold coming back per trip for those traders. That's very effective over here. Also bringing back some food and wood, which is a nice added extra. But of course, it's all about that gold income that you're getting. And Beasty's resources aren't looking that terrible. He's adding some horsemen as we speak, so he's gonna have some map presence. And if he is able to maintain this trade for the next 1 or 2 minutes, he's gonna be able to catch up quite nicely to Castle Age with DeMusliM. Gate is being built on the right side. You see archers will secure the ground for the prelates to move up towards those relics. So far, we didn't see Beasty moving towards those relics with any units, but I would expect his first couple of horsemen to move out. Indeed, first horseman is out there. And for DeMusliM, it looks like he doesn't have a ton of armies, so he's gonna have a troublesome time picking up that relic. There are 2 archers protecting that prelate, but that's not going to be enough against a horseman. Horseman upgrade is just now coming in here for Beasty, so that's not even a Dark Age horseman anymore. It's going to try and target the prelate. Prelate will pop the Vololo here to try and push away that horseman. Vololo? Looks like no Vololo. He's just going to make a run for it. The horseman doesn't have a ton of damage output, so 1 horseman isn't going to do that much of a damage, especially because the Field Age upgrade just now finished. It looks like the prelate is going to get away with this one. No trouble over there. They should be able to pick off at least one of those archers, however. Beasty still operating with the trade eco. This means that his resource income is going to be quite nice. If you look at that gold income, that's pretty decent for a Mongol player that's probably barely mining gold. And it looks like DeMusliM might actually try to yoink that relic. Part of the advantage of dropping the towers all across the map here for Beasty to expand his YAM network for the trade is that he's also going to have the towers defending the relics. And that's going to make it difficult for our blue player, DeMusliM, to pick up those relics. And you see, that's the plan here. He's basically towering all those relics. The question is, can he finish this tower before the prelate yoinks the relic? First knight on the way as well. Prelate picks up the relic, and with that, prelate is going to make a run for it. Villager is running back home, and with the tower being ungarrisoned, the prelate is going to get away with that relic. That's relic number 2 coming in for DeMusliM. He's trying to go for relic number 3, but that's a little overly ambitious. For a brief moment, the villager was pulled away, but once the knight comes in, he might be able to just prevent that tower from ever happening. Quite a lot of horsemen on the battlefield, though, for Beasty, as he's getting ready to go up into Castle Age himself. Horsemen popping a preemptive wall over here, discouraging the cavalry from charging, and it looks like on the right side we'll have the villager cleaned up. Now once again, horsemen turning around, trying to snipe down that one prelate out there. Knights are doing their best, but that's enough horsemen to potentially yoink that monk. This relic is something that will fall into the hands of DeMusliM no matter what, but it is going to be one prelate taken down, so do you delay DeMusliM picking up those relics for some time. On the right side, you could see the tower being denied. Khan is guarding the relic on the far right, but DeMusliM should have no trouble picking up 3 relics, potentially even 4. Because he already has 1 relic under his control, he's going to have this, he's going to have this, and he's going to have an opportunity for this one. So it looks like Beasty isn't going to be able to prevent his opponent from picking up at least 3 relics here. Relic number 2 and 3 are just now coming in for Regnitz Cathedral, and from this point on, Beasty is in a troublesome spot. Because of course he's got the trade going, but DeMusliM is sitting conveniently behind Voz, which means that it's difficult for Beasty to do any damage on him, and Beasty could just go fast Imperial into Pass of Swabia. Now we are seeing some Lancers being popped out from triple stables. This will be spotted by DeMusliM, so he knows fully well that he's going to encounter Lancers. And now that the players are in Castle Age, they are eligible to build stone walls. Of course, that's irrelevant for the Mongols because they don't have walls, but DeMusliM is allowed to build stone walls now, and he could do that to try and prevent raids from coming in. Trade cards are increasing in numbers though. For DeMusliM, what he needs to do is probably just try to raid the trade as much as possible, and is that the Kurultai I'm seeing? This is very similar to what Mista did. It was Arabia as the map instead of this map, Hillandale. And it's a curious build, because obviously with the Kurultai you don't have the step readout that's boosting your gold miners, but you're not mining gold at all. So you can probably get away with this one, and the Kurultai will allow you to heal up your Lancers if needed. And it's going to give you a lot of map presence as well. Knight numbers are increasing steadily though here for DeMusliM, and you see he's starting to poke away at those traders, slowly taking down quite a few of them. And that's a ton of damage done to Beasty, especially given the fact that the entire gold income for Beasty comes from those traders. Knights also tempted to jump underneath the town center, trying to get some villagers killed on the sheep, and that they do. Knight numbers are slowly increasing for Beasty, but at this point, DeMusliM is inflicting a ton of casualties on the opponent, and you see that the influx of all of those blue knights is just very consistent. They are trickling into the base of Beasty here, and DeMusliM is slaying villagers left and right. Beasty's eco is still far ahead compared to his opponents. You see it's 69 villagers, now it's down to 59 actually, versus 43. But DeMusliM has been doing quite a lot of damage on the eco of Beasty, and Beasty is clearly struggling cleaning up these knights. Looks like the knight numbers are slowly decreasing here for DeMusliM, but the army for Beasty disappeared. He's got one unit on the battlefield that is capable of fighting. He's got one lancer, another lancer pops out, but reinforcements are trickling in here for DeMusliM as well, and Beasty taps out. He's just getting overrun by knights over here. Despite the fact that he had such a good trading eco, the problem is that he just ran out of army, and with that, he had no chance of protecting his trade. DeMusliM just committed against the base of the opponent. He could have tried raiding the traders on the left side, but he realized that he has such a big window to overrun the opponent with knights that he did just that. And that's the problem that you're having with the Mongols over here. If you, for any reason, if you fall behind in terms of military numbers or in terms of technology, so your opponent beats you to Castle Age and you're facing Lancers when you don't have your own, you can't really just buffer up with some walls and slow down the opponent's advance. Because that's exactly what we saw from DeMusliM. He realized that he was behind when it comes to units and in just commitment to the army in the early game. Dark Age, even mid-Feudal Age. So we had some horsemen going for Beasty, but those weren't able to do anything because DeMusliM had the walls. Meanwhile, once DeMusliM got to Castle Age, he had the knights harassing the opponent, and Beasty couldn't just wall himself up with the Mongols because obviously he has no access to walls. So that's the risk of taking Mongols on this map. If you ever fall behind, it's going to be very difficult to slow down the opponent's advance, and this time around, that did not happen. Beasty falls in this game, and that makes the score 1-1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 3 in between DeMusliM and Beastyqt. We're going to have DeMusliM picking the Chinese civilization on the left side in blue, and on the southern part of the map, we're going to have Beasty playing as the Rus. The map is Mongolian Heights, a map where the Rus is borderline a meta civilization pick, but a map where the Chinese is definitely an intriguing choice. Not something that you see every day, but I love this setup here for multiple reasons. First of all, the Chinese will rely very heavily on sheep that is being supervised and dropped off at the mill. And on this map, you have a ton of sheep to work with, and you see both players are making a run for the outer rim of the map, because that's where you find most of your sheep. In fact, Beasty is sending his first scout towards the opponent's side, so that he can steal as much as he can from the opponent. Now, of course, having a Rus on the battlefield will mean that we will have a scuffle for the huntables and the predators. At the beginning, the players are just trying to aggro wolves, but they will start looking for the hunts over here. Looks like Beasty has found the hunt of the opponent on the left side, and he's taking that down right now. You can see that that red dot is not moving on the left side, so that is an indicator that that scout is taking down the huntables as we speak. Looks like DeMusliM is able to bring in quite a lot of sheep, so he has to be happy with this. Meanwhile, on the right side, we do have a dock already up for Beastyqt. He has a first fishing ship popping out. The supervised mill with the sheep eco should be somewhat comparable at the beginning to the opponent's fishing eco, but I do know, or at least I do think I know what DeMusliM could have on his mind. And if that's the plan that I'm thinking about, it's a very cheeky but very clever gameplay. So the first thing that you have to think about is that the Rus player, if he builds a dock, or any civilization really, that delays Feudal Age compared to a player that just goes on food and gold. But the thing that I'm thinking about is that the Barbican of the Sun could be dropped close to the river and deny the opponent from fishing, or at least temporarily. That would be a very cheeky build. And keep in mind that the Rus fishing ships don't have to drop off fish, so they could just sail elsewhere. But at least you would deny that dock from the opponent, and you would have a very nice staging ground for your own dock to be placed, potentially. So that could be an interesting move here from DeMusliM. Curious to see what he has on his mind exactly. Looks like Beasty is quite successful finding Hunt over here on the north. He is going to take down the entire patch of deer, also aggro 2 wolves. And he was also rather successful finding sheep as well. Beastyqt currently at 190 bounty. He should have no trouble getting to 250, might even be able to crack that 300 mark. Meanwhile, for DeMusliM, he also doesn't have to be disappointed. He was very successful gathering sheep over here. You see, he's gonna have about 20 sheep to work with, and there is the forward villagers. It could be an even more aggressive gameplay, but nope. Barbican of the Sun being dropped close to the crossing. I wonder if DeMusliM knows about the opponent's dock over here. I would think that he does because it's so close, and indeed that's the plan here. Barbican of the Sun now being dropped, this will force Beastyqt to move away from this position for the time being, and it will also make it much more difficult for the opponent to cross. Looks like the sheep will be taken down from the back of that scout. That's 5 extra bounty for Beastyqt. You could see that the villager was trying to cut off the path of the scout and just trying to yoink one sheep from the back of that scout. Looks like we're going to have some fortified palisades being dropped here by our Rus player. He will try to wall off this crossing, prevent enemies of passing, because keep in mind, the Chinese can build up a large army really fast. Supervise an archer range, supervise a stable, and you can get archers and horsemen out really fast. So that is something that the Rus player has to respect, and because of that, he's going to start walling off. In fact, I would love to see Beastyqt also walling off the other 2 crossings, and it looks like he's going to do just that. Looks like it is going to be the Golden Gate for Beastyqt as his age-up landmark, whereas for DeMusliM, it looks like he's still mining gold, so it is a possibility that we are going to see a Song Dynasty coming in very soon. He's not mining stone, so he's going to be playing with 1 town center for the time being. Voes will maybe be made here by Beastyqt. He's going to have all 3 crossings walled up. No dock coming in just yet from DeMusliM. He's going to try and burn his way through these walls, but that's going to take quite a lot of time given the fact that those are fortified palisades. Part of the reason why Rus is a popular civilization pick nowadays on this map is because you can fortify those crossings much easier with the fortified palisades, so it's much more difficult for your opponent to get through those walls as compared to other civilizations just having standard palisade walls. Of course, the bigger thing is that you have a very much powerful navy here, and of course, a good food eco that is also very effective even if it gets pushed away from the dock. That's probably the biggest thing here for the Rus. Even if your fishing eco gets pushed, you can just move it away elsewhere. Looks like a couple of fishing ships are sailing south over here. They will ignore the fire coming in from the Barbican of the Sun. And that, I think, is because we have a chance for DeMusliM to maybe push the southern crossing. And I do believe that Beastyqt just wants to spread out his fishing ships so he can convert these ships into combat vessels if needed. Like you see, he's coming into the south over here, and the idea is that he's going to have at least 1 fishing ship over here, making sure that if there is any kind of aggression coming this way, he has something to convert into a combat vessel. Looks like we got some more wars coming up here. What exactly is the plan here for Beastyqt? Seems like he's walling in that big gold mine, which isn't going to have an immediate impact, but it would definitely be a cheeky play. Remember, the big gold mine is going to be quite impactful in the long run, but I would be somewhat surprised if that was the actual plan over here, so I'm still somewhat puzzled why he's walling up the north, but we'll have to see about that one. Right now, in the middle, the wars are getting weaker and weaker, still about 50% HP left on them. Looking at DeMusliM, he is quite low on food and gold, so I wonder if he dropped the second landmark for the Song Dynasty. He's still in tank, but he's just now building the Imperial Academy. Nice position for it. It's going to be able to affect the mill and lumber camp as well. Mining camp is up on the stone, and DeMusliM is now mining stone. He's ready for a second town center, so Song Dynasty 2 town center boom. Pretty usual stuff with the Chinese. Meanwhile, on the other side for Beastyqt, now he's leveraging that food eco, and you see he's getting close to Castle Age. He's going to be able to start selling resources for gold on the Golden Gate. And very soon, he will be dropping his Abbey of the Trinity, I do believe. And were those vows ever completed? Or what's the plan there for Beastyqt? He made some partial vows up north, but I wonder what the plan was with those, because they don't seem to be finished. Second town center on the way for DeMusliM, and he's still staying on stone. So he might be saying, okay, I'm quite a bit behind when it comes to villager count or just generally eco count, given the fact that Beastyqt had the fishing eco for a long time. So I might not be satisfied with 2 town centers, I might do 3. This is a very greedy approach if he indeed does free town centers, but boy oh boy would he catch up in terms of villagers so fast. Castle Age on the way for Beasty, however, and the key thing here is that DeMusliM doesn't have the crossings vote. There's the high trade house coming in. It's actually a very nice position for it. Could have been slightly better though, because you want to have as many trees incorporated as possible, and the forest on the south isn't going to be part of it. Now you could ask why high trade house over the abbey, and the answer is simple. You will still be able to make a monastery and start picking up relics, even though your warrior monks will be more expensive if you make them on the monastery as compared to the abbey. You don't really need to rush for the relics, right? It's not like your opponent is going to start picking those relics up. And keep in mind that the high trade house itself is going to give you a nice trickle of gold. This is not going to be a super effective one. I would think it's going to be in the dimensions of 50, 60 gold per minute at best. But it's also going to give you infinite hunt to work with, which is never something to be ashamed of, and it looks like it actually ends up being 122. So, you see, this is basically one relic worth of gold income forever. And of course, you can still pick up the relics with warrior monks made on the monastery. So, there is definitely an appeal in the high trade house. If you don't need to rush for the relics, the high trade house is actually the better choice over the Abbey of the Trinity. Looks like Man-at-Arms is the name of the game over here. Fast Castle is something that the Rus can use not only to make horse archers, they can also go for straight Man-at-Arms. Wars are going to be made right now by DeMusliM. He is still in Feudal Age, which means that he's not allowed to make stone walls, and it looks like he's aware of the fact that he won't be able to wall off the crossings, so he's just gonna have to wall off his far right side, but obviously that's going to be a ton of resources invested into this one, and it's still not going to protect him entirely. In fact, one of the cheeky plays that we could see here from Beasty would be, even if these walls are up on the right side, and even on the left side, one thing that you could do here for Beasty is potentially transport units through. If you transport units in, you can march straight into the base of the opponent, so if Beasty bumps into walls everywhere, he still will have the option to transport units in with a transport ship. He's dropping the monastery right now. Looking at the relics, he's got 3 on his side of the river. On the other side, you will have 2. So there should be no problem for Beasty picking up 3 relics. There's the clock tower coming in though, so DeMusliM is not that much behind when it comes to Castle Age timing. Looks like he's only operating with 2 town centers for the time being. He's got 500 stone in the bank, so I wonder if he wanted to make a 3rd town center. Then he changed his mind upon seeing his opponent hitting Castle Age. It's a possibility. It's also possible that he started mining stone because he wants to drop an early keep to control the crossings, but we'll have to see about that one. Chinese keeps are very powerful, in particular when it comes to taking down battering rams, so that will be a very good defensive structure to have here for DeMusliM, but of course he's still 300 stone away from it. He's up to Castle Age right now, so Palace Guard's Nest of Bees is probably going to be on the menu here in a matter of seconds. And down south, looks like the Man-at-Arms are burning their way through the walls, so the way into the base of DeMusliM is right now wide open. Couple of crossbows would help immensely here for DeMusliM, but of course the best thing he can do, if he really wants to get army on the battlefield quickly, is just to supervise those barracks. He's also dropping a Nest of Bees right now with the clock tower, but you can no longer supervise the clock tower, which means that you won't be able to just flood out the Nest of Bees anymore. First couple of Man-at-Arms appearing on the battlefield. Palace Guards are inferior in combat, but the numbers will be much better here for our blue player, DeMusliM, so he should be able to hold off this attack here, although he's going to suffer from some casualties. Man-at-Arms will jump on the officer jumping back into the town center. Hand cannon emplacements on that town center is going to help quite a lot cleaning up the Men-at-Arms, and it looks like we will have 1 or 2 villagers being picked off by the Men-at-Arms over here, but the casualties aren't gigantic at this point for DeMusliM. Given the fact that he was quite a bit behind in Castle Age timing, these are acceptable losses, I would say, for him. Especially for a player that's 2 town centers Song Dynasty. Looks like he's gonna be able to clean up most of those Man-at-Arms on the wood line. More reinforcements are trickling in, however, so this is still an issue that needs to be addressed, especially because now we're seeing some crossbows appear on the battlefield, something that DeMusliM has no answer to right now. Looks like more Man-at-Arms are crossing over here. Crossbows will start to get added over here. We have some supervisors going idle over there, if I'm not mistaken. They weren't really supervising the barracks. 11 army right now for DeMusliM, whereas on the other side you have 20 for our red player, Beasty, and he's picking up relics quite relentlessly. By breaking through at the south, he also opens up the possibility of potentially grabbing that relic as well, which would give him 4 relics, and he would be in a great spot. There is the defensive castle coming in here for the Muslim. That's going to protect the front of his base, but you gotta wonder if that was the initial castle placement idea for him, or he's just doing this as a reaction to the attacks coming into his base. One officer falls over here as the first nest of bees pops out. Now that he's up to castle age, he's going to start dropping a stone wall. He's realizing that he needs to slow this push down because he's getting ground down by all those men-at-arms. His villager lead has now disappeared, but he's going to have the defensive castle up, and you see those walls on the right side did not accomplish much because the enemies came from the left. The first crossbows are just now making it through the river, as the nest of bees will have a great fight against those. Men-at-arm numbers are disappearing here for Beastyqt, and you see the Muslim, now with the ability to supervise his production buildings, is slowly taking over in terms of military numbers, and we're seeing some horse archers appear on the battlefield. Now, horse archers have a fairly high base attack, and they do have high mobility, so they're actually moderately effective against the palace guards. But one thing that Beastyqt could do over here to discourage the opponent from fighting close to the river would be to potentially convert one of those fishing ships into a demolition ship. One demolition ship over there would be extremely dangerous to those palace guards, and you see, Beastyqt is coming in for a big relic heist. There is going to be 1 relic picked up on the right side, 1 on the left side. Beastyqt is going to secure all 5 relics for himself, while his opponent is busy addressing the attacks that happened previously. The Muslim still mining quite a lot of stone here, so I assume he wants multiple keeps to be placed along the shoreline to try and cover the crossings, and it looks like he's heading straight into the base of the opponent. Beastyqt has to take the long route around because he cannot break through the Barbican of the Sun right now. So he is taking this route, whereas for the Muslim, he can just march straight into the base of the opponent from the front, and this is not something that Beastyqt expected at all. The palace guards are ready to rampage the eco here of Beastyqt, and now you see all those gold miners being exposed, and that's going to be quite a lot of casualties taken over here by Beastyqt. Beautiful move from the palace guards to sandwich themselves in between the tower and those villagers, and look at the amount of casualties here. This is exactly the counterattack that the Muslim needed. He's just decimating the villager count of Beastyqt, and Beastyqt is trying to catch up with those palace guards, but that's why they are so dangerous and so hard to stop. You're going to have high mobility on those palace guards, and they can just run away from the men-at-arms, the crossbows. Vololo was popped over there for Beastyqt, but that was just a preemptive measure to try and prevent the palace guards from jumping onto that monk. The key thing right now for the Muslim is that he knows he's going to lose those palace guards, but he will do as much damage as he can with them, and that he was very successful in. He managed to take down Beastyqt's villager count to 50, and now, as Beastyqt is distracted, there is going to be a keep coming up on the river side, which could potentially sink a couple of fishing ships. There is also a keep coming up from the other player, which is going to be Beastyqt. Both keeps will likely go up over here, as the nest of bees should be able to push away the combat ship from the riverfront. But the key thing here is that if the keep goes up here for the Muslim, he should be able to, at least in theory, take down the other keep, because it's going to be difficult for Beastyqt to reinforce this position. Nest of bees will have to hold off the men-at-arms here, as the Chinese villagers are not done building that keep just yet. Only 3 villagers are building it, which means that it's going to take some time until this keep is finished, but the nest of bees are here to help out. There is going to be 2 keeps on this left side, but with the hand cannon placements in for that Chinese keep, it's going to be much more difficult for the Rus player to push this one with battering rams. Looks like most villagers are taken down. There is all but 1 of the villagers lying dead on the battlefield. The Muslim desperately needs a couple more villagers to finish this castle with, because he needs this castle up to prevent the opponent from crossing the river. Indeed, here come the reinforcements, and with that, Nest of Bees continuously firing upon the enemies. Springgold now opening up for Beastyqt over here on those Nest of Bees. The Muslim isn't messing around, he's still mining more stone. It is just going to be a castle spam game at this point for him. He's going to place castles everywhere. He tried to stonewall the crossing over here, but that he wasn't able to do. And now I'm realizing what Beastyqt did with those wall sections up north. Those wall sections, these over here, these are just preventing the opponent from walling off this crossing. This is exactly the same thing that he did at the bottom. He's making sure that the Muslim doesn't have an easy time placing walls at that crossing. Looks like a lot of villagers are sent to the left. Another keep is going to be built here. Chinese villagers will build that so fast that the men-at-arms, by the time they arrive, the keep should be up. And we should start to see some trebuchets hitting the battlefield. Of course, for the Chinese player, it's going to be much easier for him to get those on the battlefield. because his base is so much closer. So with the clock tower, I would be very surprised not to see some trebuchets appearing on the battlefield. Indeed, here they come. They are ready to start shelling the castle, and that's why Beast is focusing so much on that corner. He's starting the Sacred Site countdown. The right-hand side Sacred Site would be difficult for DeMusliM to decap, but the one on the left side, this is something that Beastyqt could hold for at least some time. Of course, he would need a continuous supply of Springles to snipe trebuchets with, but the bigger thing for Muslim, and that's something that he's gonna have to address, is that he's relying very heavily on those berries as his food income. And once that starts running low, he could be in serious trouble. Keep in mind the way into the base of Beast is wide open. So if things get ugly for DeMusliM and he can't destroy that castle, and if we are getting very close to that Sacred Site victory, it's actually a possibility for DeMusliM to just send in a bunch of Palace Guards into the opponent's base and just start to snipe the landmarks. Speaking of which, the landmarks are actually very close to each other. You see they're all on the screen. So it's very easy to snipe all three landmarks if the opponent isn't watching. For Palace Guards, that's going to take some effort. But if things get desperate for DeMusliM, that's definitely something that he can consider. For now, he's chilling, he's taking down that one castle, and it looks like he's going to utilize the fact that Beast is focusing elsewhere to drop a very aggressive forward castle. And this could cut off the influx of reinforcements here. That's going to be a beautiful castle here. It also secures the berries, which will be good for DeMusliM's food eco. And stopping the Chinese villagers from building something like that is extremely difficult. Palace Guards and the Nest of Bees are joining up here. And Beasty did not expect this one. Beast is focusing on the left side. You see he has absolutely nothing over here. In fact, he's going to lose one of the Springolds over here to the Palace Guards, and now the Siege Workshop is being taken down, the castle is being built, and suddenly you might have a window to even snipe the landmarks completely independently from the push happening on the left side. See, Siege Workshops are being taken down. DeMusliM knows very well that he needs to minimize the amount of Springolds hitting the battlefield, and now the Palace Guards will jump on Lumberjacks. That's going to be an absolute fiesta of slaughter. Beast is down to 58 villagers, and he's dropping in villager count quite rapidly. He's making a run for the left side, crossbows now being added by Beasty to try and deal with those Palace Guards, but the amount of damage that he's suffering from is immeasurable, really. So many villagers going down. It looks like on the riverfront, we do have trebuchets of Beasty shelling that position. Those could be potentially exposed to the Palace Guards that are on this side of the river for DeMusliM, but for now he's focusing on pushing the opponent's base, and he's quite successful doing that. You see, he's getting close to those landmarks. As long as there are crossbows in there, they should be able to hold off the Palace Guards, but I wonder if DeMusliM is going to drop a second castle soon. He's going to have enough stone for that, and the question is, if he drops it, where exactly is it going to be placed? It's going to be right in the face of the opponent, right in the heart of the production, so any unit that spawns now for Beasty will be immediately under fire by the castle. That's actually very annoying to deal with, because you're trying to produce units, yet they will get killed immediately by the castle fire. Boiling oil up on those castles, and that's going to make it very difficult for Beasty to push this one. The high trade house, the barracks are now exposed. For now, DeMusliM is repairing the castle on the riverfront, but he has no tools of taking out the trebuchets on the other side of the river, at least not for the time being. The trebs are completely undefended, so two Palace Guards being sent in from the base of Beasty could easily be able to take it down. For now, DeMusliM didn't decide to do that. He could still divert some of the Palace Guards that are currently hitting the eco of Beasty to just try and take down those trebs. Instead, he's doing something even better. He's decapping the Sacred Site on the north, because Beasty was focusing all his efforts on the left-hand side Sacred Site. And what this will result in is that DeMusliM has a window to decap the northern Sacred Site without any interference from his opponent, really. And this is going to just stop the Sacred Site countdown, and from this point on, we're looking at the 163 versus 94 population scenario in a position where the Chinese player has two castles in the face of the opponent, and he's getting ready to drop a third one. Palace Guards finally finding an angle to take down those trebuchets with, and I do believe DeMusliM still has the castle alive, so he was able to keep that alive. Decaps the Sacred Site, so now Beasty lost his Sacred Site countdown over here, and with that, he's in a difficult spot. His military population isn't looking terrible, it's 44 right now as opposed to 53, but his eco is a train wreck. And especially if you're seeing some sort of naval aggression as well from DeMusliM, trying to take down those leftover fishing ships, that eco number is going to drop even more for Beasty. He's setting up trebs right now to try and take down the keeps inside his base. But the thing that's concerning right now for Beasty is that a significant portion of his military population is basically Springolds and or Trebuchets. So he doesn't really have a direct answer to just Palace Guards overrunning him. And you see there is quite a lot of Palace Guards to work with. Looks like we're going to have the Palace Guards burning down those walls, opening up a new passage for the Muslim to cross. And on the left side, it looks like the castle was taken down, so the Muslim should be able to get that area of the map for himself as well. Here comes the next wave of Palace Guards for the time being. Nest of Bees still being active, taking down buildings. The Muslim is struggling with food. That's his only problem right now. He only has 255 food per minute. As I said, I think he was living off the berries exclusively. Now, there is a patch of hunt that he can take on the north, and that would give him quite a lot of food to work with, possibly enough to take down the opponent before he really needs to transition to farms. Another keep being dropped on the north, as we will have the Palace Guards just burning down the fishing eco. Beasty is down to 37 economy. He's basically got nothing working for him. The berry vultures are being picked apart. His eco is a train wreck. Lumberjacks were slaughtered down south over here. You see that the villagers are being scrambled upon to try and repair that trebuchet out there. This means that many of the villagers will eventually fall. Castle goes up, which means that the fishing eco will also be exposed. Beasty is losing his entire economy. He's down to 33 of that. And while he still has an operational army, I think that at this point, the Muslim should be able to grind him down. It's simply massive numbers advantage eventually for the Muslim that he can utilize because he's got much better eco right now. He can easily turn that into much better army numbers and ultimately just overrun the opponent. Looks like Beasty is successful cleaning up those small groups of Palace Guards, but now the Muslim has to focus elsewhere. As I said, he needs to get his food eco in shape, because part of the reason why he's rather slow pushing this is because he doesn't have a good food eco to replenish the Palace Guards with. But he's slowly cleaning up the left side. This should give him a nice window to potentially capture the sacred site even. The only thing that's really going well for Beasty is that he still has 5 relics, and that's compensating for the villager casualties, and he's trapping down the first castle as we speak. The Muslim has 500 stone in the bank, but he's no longer mining any, which means that he won't be able to build the next castle over here. He's built one of the northern crossings, so now he has one castle overlooking each of those crossings. This means that even if Beasty finds a way to counterattack, it's gonna be impossible for him to cross the river, which basically gives a ton of time for the Muslim to play around with. He doesn't really need to stress this one. He has his time to build up the farming eco, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Looks like the trebuchets of Beasty are getting rid of those castles in his face, but at this point the Muslim isn't really going to force fights over here. He knows very well that he has done a lot of damage to the opponent's eco, and now he's just regrouping back at home, cleaning up his side of the river, securing those gold mines, and making sure that he's not going to take any bad moves, he's not going to throw this game away, because one of the things to talk about with the Muslim is that he had a great set versus Mista 2 days ago, and then there were 2 games which just slipped out of his control. He ended up losing 3-0 to Mista, but out of that 3 defeats, 2 games were basically so close to be won by him, but in the end he fell to landmark snipes and sort of let those slip out of his grasp. So I'm not surprised to see the Muslim playing quite safely over here and basically just saying, okay, I need to play safe. He knows very well that he's got a fairly substantial advantage here, so it's all about making sure that he's not going to throw that away. Although you also have to consider something else. Beasty is playing as the Rus, as we do see quite a lot of siege weapons for the Muslim being picked off for free here by Beasty. So Beasty is playing as the Rus, and the Rus have a deadly late game composition. The Chinese do as well, but you might not want to drag this game out for a super long amount of time here for Beasty. Beasty's food eco is currently an absolute train wreck. He lost his fishing eco, he lost his berries, so currently Beasty is sitting at 120 food per minute, which means that it's going to take forever for him to build up a big army. And I think that the Muslim could be thinking about a lot of things here. Could be Imperial Age, could be Yuan Dynasty even. I would think Imperial Age could make a lot of sense because that would give him access to bombards, and that would help a lot taking down buildings. or just get access to the elite palace guards. That would help immensely as well in these fights. Long-range springolds, many things to love about the Imperial Age, as once again, DeMusliM is mining stone. Looks like he's trying to burn his way through these walls over here. Crossbows should be able to push back those forces, but he sets the walls on fire. He just wants to burn those down. Springolds will trade evenly against each other here. Looks like both sides are losing 2 of them. Beastyqt, in the meantime, is walling up on the north. You see, he's not even walling the crossing anymore. He knows that he has lost the river, and that is going to be the Spirit Way coming in as the Imperial Age landmark of DeMusliM. And with that, he's going to have access to elite palace guards. He's going to have access to long-range springolds. He does lose the castle close to the river, but he's immediately rebuilding that. And once he gets to Imperial, he's also going to have the bombardment placement available on that. So a lot of things to love about it. Curious to see what exactly DeMusliM is going to do unit composition-wise, because this could just remain full palace guards, but he could think about something else as well. Especially given the fact that his opponent is heavy on the crossbows, it's not impossible that Jugenu would be an option. He still allowed his opponent to have one sacred site under his control, by the way. So you see, at the left side of the screen, there is that sacred site, still controlled by Beastyqt, that could have been decapped by DeMusliM, but he did not really do that so far. Going for the university is our blue player, DeMusliM, which means that he's going to have elite infantry tactics supporting those palace guards immediately. Now he's going to have long-range springolds coming in for him as soon as possible. His castle is still being trapped down quite relentlessly. He's trying to counter-trap that, but now he's realizing that his opponent's army is on the left side once again, so he could just run into the opponent's base, and he could really think about just burning down the landmarks, because there isn't really any eco to kill. There is just some lumberjacks, and that's basically it inside the base of our red player, Beastyqt. He's actually going for the relics. That's a nice move over there. Taking down the monastery would mean that your opponent has to rebuild the monastery, make new warrior monks to pick up those relics, and that's going to mean that it's going to take some time to recover those relics. Remember, you have 5 relics under the control of Beastyqt, so that's definitely something that you want to get rid of if you are DeMusliM. Elite palace guards now in for DeMusliM as he's coming in with the palace guards. Swinging north, trying to find some villagers to kill. Looks like a mangonel is set up over there, and that could be a lot of dead villagers. They do seem to have tech stalls, but the next volley is coming in, and those villagers still standing strong. Next volley should be devastating, though. Here comes the blast, and boink! There goes at least 5, 6, 7 villagers. Those villagers are super sturdy, it seems, because multiple volleys of mangonel fire was barely able to kill 2 or 3 of them. They do have tech stalls. Now it's going to be more and more villagers are being pulled by DeMusliM to take down that mangonel. Still 130 villagers for DeMusliM, only 37 for Beastyqt. Now Beastyqt's army count is looking quite healthy. It's 73, but you have to keep in mind that he's in Castle Age. He has lost 3 relics, and he still has 2 under his control, but his eco is still an absolute train wreck at this point. Most of his army is crossbows, springolds, and trebuchets, so horsemen or even fire lancers could be a great unit to add here for DeMusliM, but it looks like he's just sticking with the palace guards. Not necessarily a terrible idea when you're so much ahead, but he could definitely adjust his unit composition to make his life a little easier. Palace guards burning down some buildings on the perimeter, and you can see that Beastyqt is going to have some more pressure coming from the northern side. There were some barracks being placed up north, but the palace guards are now jumping on the trebuchets. Quite a lot of crossbows here to protect them. 1 trebuchet goes down, but most of those palace guards will also be cleaned up. A 2nd trebuchet might be killed. Repair villagers are being pulled, and as things stand, it looks like the trebuchets will survive. One of them was taken down for a price of like 15-20 palace guards, so that wasn't particularly effective for DeMusliM. Now he's trying to jump on the springolds. Results will be comparable to the attempt trying to snipe down the trebuchets. He snipes down 1 siege weapon, loses all the palace guards. So there's new barracks being built up north, and even spearmen would work very nicely here for DeMusliM, because, as I said, his opponent is basically playing exclusively crossbowmen, which are a counter unit to the palace guards. So you want to have something that just deals with those crossbows, that it's at least not being countered by the crossbowmen. Talk about spearmen, talk about horsemen. And if DeMusliM does that, he should be able to win this game in the next 5 minutes or so. Looks like he's crossing the river right now. He's going to have the long-range springolds working for him. Fishing ships are now being sunk, as it looks like now is the time for the push for DeMusliM. He's coming in through the north. just when Beasty started swinging that direction. So Beasty is gonna have to readjust his army over here. Back into his base. Palace Guards once again going into the base of Beasty. Beasty basically has no operational economy and his food eco is a train wreck. He's trying to keep the enemies at bay so he can access the hunt underneath the high trade house. There is like at least 15-20 carcasses underneath the high trade house, and that's what Beasty needs for him to have a good food eco. But here comes the push from DeMusliM, 70 army versus 81, but replenishing that army is gonna be next to impossible for Beasty, and it looks like DeMusliM doesn't care. He just wants to raid his opponent to oblivion. All the villagers are going down right now for Beasty, and there is nowhere to go for them. You see the Palace Guards ignore the crossbow fire, they ignore the tower fire, the town center fire. They just keep looking for villagers, and now, as Beasty's crossbows are shifting to the south, this is going to open a window for DeMusliM to jump on those springholes with his own Palace Guards. Palace Guards will be able to finish off quite a lot of those springholds. And now bombards are crawling up here. I think the bombards are ready to target those landmarks. Springholds are out here for DeMusliM as well, although his numbers aren't spectacular. So looks like he's going to get forced back, but Beasty is going to tap out. He knows very well that he's not going to be able to rebuild this army or rebuild the economy. He was able to hold this wave off, but the next wave was imminent. DeMusliM has the majority of the map under his control. He's going to have a way superior economy, and he does have Imperial Age units as opposed to Castle Age units. So with that, DeMusliM now takes game number 3 over here. He's going to take a win with Chinese here, once again increasing the win rate of the Chinese. Chinese might have the best win rate in the entire tournament, actually. So whoever goes for Chinese really knows what they are doing with that civilization, it seems. This was a great battle for him. Key thing, of course, was the ability to just make sure that his opponent wasn't able to cross, and then that first counterattack. The first counterattack that killed like 20-25 villagers from Beasty, completely unexpected by Beasty, and by the time he realized what was going on, it was too late to clean it up, and from that point on, he was playing from a disadvantage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 4 between DeMusliM and Beastyqt. DeMusliM at match point on the final day of the $100,000 N4C Swiss stage. We're going to have on the left side DeMusliM playing as the blue, and on the right side it is going to be the Chinese in red for Beastyqt. So once again, it is going to be a Chinese being utilized this time around on Altai. And this is not an unprecedented sight. Chinese versus Abbasids became more and more frequent nowadays. In some cases, we're still seeing players going for English. In fact, that's still rather frequent. But we're seeing the use of Chinese and Abbasids even more on this map because Chinese do have a lot of flexibility associated with them. The ability to supervise... Oh, images of a LAN event happening over here. Look at this. Production crew playing around with the cameras here for a brief moment. Also, the observer should collapse this little window here because... that is something that he needs to collapse, otherwise the edge of it is going to be visible. Anyways, we're going to have DeMusliM playing as the Abbasids and Beastyqt playing as the Chinese. Two civilizations with powerful economies, but Beastyqt probably has a bit more flexibility associated with his civilization, because Chinese is really the most flexible civilization out there. Whereas for the Abbasids, it's also a civilization that has a diverse ways of approaching games. They can play very eco-heavy 2 town centers, potentially 3 town centers, but they all can also play very aggressive, trying to go for a fuel age ram push, for example. So I'm curious to see what exactly the game plan is going to be here for DeMusliM. Looks like Beasty is quite successful gathering sheep, which obviously helps a lot for the Chinese player. He does want to supervise the mill and just drop off the sheep over there. I think he started out with the hunt, which is pretty common for this map, especially if your hunt is not so exposed. You will just go with your initial mill towards the hunt, and you will supervise it that way. Now, the name of the game here for Beasty is going to be Scouting. Because if he sees that DeMusliM isn't playing aggressive, doesn't see production buildings, only sees DeMusliM going for a second town center, what he needs to do is just go for the second town center himself and play Song Dynasty. So basically the idea here for Beasty is that his commitment to economy should be comparable to what DeMusliM is doing, and for that he needs to know how much DeMusliM is committing to early economy build-up and how much he's committing to early army build-up. You see, DeMusliM is pushing away one deer from the mill over there, being a little cheeky. He's trying to push it away as much as possible, making it more difficult for his opponent to access it. He pretty much denies one deer over there with that. Small difference, but those are small things that can matter. Now, the bad news for DeMusliM is that he wasn't particularly successful gathering sheep, so he's going to have a limited amount of food to work with within his own base. Of course, he's got the berries, and there's a backup berry patch for him as well. So if you look over here, there is a backup berry patch. The third berry patch that he would have access to is up front. That's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to access. He's sending villagers to stone, so multiple town center gameplay here coming in. Whereas on the other side for Beasty, we're not seeing any signs of that. Looks like that's forward villagers. Now, it's not unprecedented to see players trying to go for a forward Barbican of the Sun over here, and I do believe that could be the plan here for Beasty. Where exactly is he going to place it? He could place it close to that forest and the gold mine, and that could be very annoying for the opponent to deal with. But this is very risky, because the Barbican rush can be stopped very easily by just pulling more villagers. There's the Barbican of the Sun. If this gets spotted by DeMusliM, he should just pull 15 villagers and stop it, but that's a big if there. Because it looks like DeMusliM doesn't see it, and that's going to be the perfect Barbican of the Sun placement in that case. If DeMusliM ever spots it, he could just pull 15-20 villagers and kill the forward vills. That's the perfect placement over there for Beasty. One tile closer to the gold mine and he would be spotted, and I can guarantee you, if DeMusliM spots that, he's going to stop it. But without knowing that the Barbican of the Sun is coming up there, it is going to be impossible for him to stop it. Now, of course, he doesn't really need gold at this point, because you see, he's got enough gold for a fresh foodstuffs upgrade and he just wants to play 2 town centers. But the key thing here is that this Barbican of the Sun gives one very important thing for Beasty, and that is a staging ground for a future assault. Looks like Beasty himself is operating with a second town center potentially, or is he? He's mining stone, so second town center is not impossible, but instead he's going for a tower rush. And you see, with the Barbican of the Sun out there, it's no longer possible for DeMusliM to push those villagers away. And as long as Beasty is mining stone, he's going to have the hand cannon slits available on those towers. This is going to be a tower that is spotted by DeMusliM, and he's going to react by dropping an archery range. He knows very well that he needs something that will take down those villagers that are sneaking up on him. Looks like our observer finally gets rid of that little box in the corner that normally appears on the UI, but usually when you use this overlay, you just collapse it. Scout is now being pulled to try and push away those villagers, more villagers being sent forward by Beasty to finish that tower. If that tower finishes, that's going to be a very dangerous tower to deal with for DeMusliM, because it's going to cut him off from the berries. And now you see the importance of these towers starting to appear, because suddenly you have multiple towers cutting off DeMusliM not only from the berries, but also from the gold, also from the stone. DeMusliM mined quite a lot of stone, just enough for a second town center, but he's a little low on the wood department, so he isn't able to go for that second TC. And this tower rush is working out a lot better than I expected it to be. Archers are now out for DeMusliM, so he's going to try and target those villagers. If you have textiles on these vills, those will survive a lot longer, and that would be a great upgrade to pick up for Beasty, who's playing with this tower rush right now. He's able to finish the tower, and that's going to help him make sure that those villagers stay alive. I think one of the villagers might have been killed as he jumped into the tower, though, because I saw 2 villagers building the tower, and there is only 1 garrisoned. Stable is up for Beasty, of course. Flexibility of the Chinese showcased over here quite well. He's supervising the stable, so he will be able to get quite a lot of horsemen out here quite early. He isn't really having a ton of food though, so he's gonna have to keep supervising that mill. Otherwise, his food eco isn't gonna be great. And look at that. The scout is blocking the wolf foundation over there. The Barbican of the Sun trying to save those villagers from the wolf. Both of those villagers are low HP. Horseman is gonna have to intervene to prevent the villagers from being killed by the wolf. Looks like the villager is gonna be able to sneak past the wood line of DeMusliM over here because the walls weren't completed in time. Second town center now coming in for Beasty, which means that his villager count will be comparable, if not better, than DeMusliM's one. And there's a sneaky tower coming up. I don't think that DeMusliM has seen that tower behind his wood line just yet. Abbasids being able to make siege weapons without the upgrade helps a lot here. You can start dropping those battering rams right now. And indeed, this tower was not scouted just yet by DeMusliM. He doesn't know about that tower coming up on that wood line. Battering ram now poking away at that tower. Archers trying to save this villager from being killed by the scout, but now you have a tower up over there. The villager of Beasty over there is stranded. because, of course, behind the walls he won't be able to escape. First tower getting taken down as we speak, as we are now seeing some more horsemen appear on the battlefield. Balls are coming up from Beasty. He just wants to wall in that tower because he's realizing that the ram would just finish it off anyways. So might as well wall it in, slow down the opponent cleaning up this tower, because it's all about slowing down the opponent. You see the second town center is only just now coming in for DeMusliM. That's heavily delayed. That's an 8.5 minutes town center for an Abbasid player. Much slower than even Beasty's second town center. So right now, Beasty is able to build up a villager lead based on the fact that his opponent's second town center has been heavily delayed. Battering ram now, poking away at that wall. You could have that villager throw a couple of torches at it, and it looks like the walls will be complete for the time being. Beasty grabbing some more horsemen to the battlefield. He's up to something like 6 or 7 already. He's got 7 military population overall, and he's got quite a few horsemen at the front. But now I think Beasty is just using this forward as a staging ground, and basically as a buffer to making sure that DeMusliM isn't going to be able to counterattack. And you see, one thing that DeMusliM doesn't have is gold. I'm just now realizing that there's a limited amount of fallback options for DeMusliM when it comes to gold. Both of his gold mines are up front, and this is his best backup. And part of the equation for the Abbasids is that, okay, we're playing 2 town centers, but even with 2 town centers, we can get to Castle Age quite fast. And that's not a possibility here for DeMusliM right now, because though he has the food, he doesn't have the gold at all. And this is a serious concern for him right now. His Castle Age is being heavily delayed because he's unable to access gold right now, and the Barbican of the Sun is now paying off quite well. Villagers are being pulled to repair the battering ram, horsemen trying to burn it down. Looks like the horsemen won't be able to though, and they will just disengage over here. No horsemen were lost until now, and I think all the horsemen got out of that battle alive. Battering ram will also stay alive for the time being. But of course, DeMusliM, being cut off from gold, he's sort of stuck in feudal age. He can increase his villager numbers quite actively, and he's doing just that. But on the other side, Beasty is piling up resources for Castle Age. He is banking up the gold already. He's going for fortified towers as well. So he's fortifying the towers that he has at the battlefield. Once again, just slowing down the opponent as long as possible, buying himself time to get to castle. He has seen the power of the Palace Guards in the previous game. So he knows very well that if he gets to Palace Guards, that's not something that the Abbasids have a single answer to. Battering ram is gonna get taken down here by the horseman. Tower, yep. Here it goes, battering ram was taken down. Tower still standing, and it is a fortified tower. It's not something that has a ton of HP, but it's definitely something that's going to, once again, slow down DeMusliM considerably. There is the astronomical clock tower coming in for Beasty, and now the tower coming in with the arrow slits emplacements, and of course, the basic hand cannon emplacement on it. It will just start killing the villagers out there. Spearman being pulled. I think there was a second battering ram being built as well. I think DeMusliM just wants to set this on fire and let it burn down. But Beasty is buying himself so much time with this one, and I don't think that DeMusliM is on the way to Castle Age. In fact, I'm fairly certain he isn't. His resource bank is just completely empty. Not only was he cut off from gold, he also was cut off from berries. And one thing that DeMusliM never did, and that's something that's hurting him right now, is he never really went to this fallback option here. If he went over there, he would have access to gold and food. I think he was confident that he can hold off this assault, so he didn't really feel like it was necessary to adjust his villagers to that location. But it seems like he wasn't really able to slow down this push enough, and now he's moving out towards that gold mine, but it seems like a little too late, because Beasty is now up in Castle Age, and the Palace Guards are coming in just a matter of seconds. Officers will supervise the barracks, so you will see Palace Guards appear on the battlefield quite rapidly. Only 1 barracks for Beasty, so he isn't even committing that much to this push here. He's just further building up his eco. Villager count is dead even, but when the first Palace Guards arrive supported by Nest of Bees, that's going to be difficult for DeMusliM to clean up, especially given the fact that he's still pretty far away from Castle Age. Some Camel Archers are hitting the field, which is a temporary solution to Palace Guards. Camel Archers having a high base attack means that they do get through the armor of the Palace Guards. The problem with the Camel Archers is that, number 1, they're very expensive, number 2, they take a lot of time to train. So it's very difficult to get like 6, 7, 8, 10 Camel Archers that you would need to be able to take a reasonable fight against those palace guards. It's not a bad idea, and that's currently the best thing that DeMusliM can do. The problem is that it's not going to solve all his issues by any means. And of course, by investing so much into the camel archers, he's also delaying his own castle age, which means that he's getting further and further away from getting crossbows on the field. Now, part of the reason why Beasty's momentum is shrinking here to a certain extent is because he's running out of food in his base. You could see that he's running out of sheep underneath the mill. So he's gonna have to adjust his villagers to berries or hunt. There is a hunt on the far right side that he can take. And there is still quite a lot of berry patches that he can go for. So he's gonna have to adjust the villagers over there, as it looks like he's going to try and snipe the ram, and he will be successful doing that. Of course, palace guards do take some damage, but they will just ignore the arrow fire, and they will take down the battering ram without problems. Looks like we're going to have quite a few spearmen being added here. One of the things that you can have with those spears, having the phalanx upgrade, is an ability to really have an effective group of spears that are just one big ball. Because in many cases, one of the problems when you have a lot of melee units is that not all of the melee units are able to fight, because not all of them can access the battle. But having that longer reach on those spearmen actually makes it easier for all of those spearmen to continuously attack enemy units, potentially surround one or two, and just maximize the damage output, focus the damage on one or two units. So it makes it a tiny bit better in terms of generally fighting any kind of fight. This being said, there is still no answer from DeMusliM to the nest of bees or the palace guards, but he's getting close to castle age, so clock is ticking. Beasty apparently is thinking about mining some stone, so he wants to replicate the build of his opponent from the previous game pretty much, wants to go for a forward castle, and a forward castle would be devastating. Because remember that those gold mines are still wide open, and despite the fact that Beasty is currently unaware of the fact that there is a backup gold mine that DeMusliM is using, at some point DeMusliM will have to abandon that backup gold mine because it will just run out of resources. And then, these two forward golds, these will be extremely important. So if Beasty can get a castle up here, that's going to put DeMusliM into a very difficult position. For now, DeMusliM is rolling up. He knows that he needs to slow this push down, and so far he was quite successful doing that. So despite the fact that Beasty had a massive castle age advantage, we didn't really see any result from that. He's just now building barracks number 2 and 3. He has been active gathering relics, I do believe. I think I saw a priest coming out, and he's also trying to get those relics into the monastery that he has built. But he hasn't picked up a single relic so far, so he's yet to garrison the first one. Here comes the battering ram, now trying to push that Barbican of the Sun. This is a now or never for DeMusliM. Because if you think about that, Beasty has the stone to drop a castle. Looks like he already placed it somewhere. I think it's on the right side. It's going to be on the other gold mine. It's right here. Looks like while Beasty is going to take the fight close to the Barbican of the Sun, distracting the opponent, unleashing death and destruction with those nests of bees as the spearmen get closer, he's going to use that window to get a castle up on the other gold mine. Palace guards will try to shield the nest of bees as much as possible, and nest of bees actually wipe out a lot of the spearmen over here in this battle. Great battle. At least the best battle that Beasty can take at this point. He's getting heavily outnumbered over here, but of course, he still has one nest of bees operational. He gets another volley out, damaging quite a lot of archers. Now the palace guards increasing in numbers. Suddenly, that Chinese production is kicking in, and DeMusliM is getting pushed back inside his base, and he hasn't even seen the worst news. As I said, there is a castle in his face. Right over here. Or at least, that should be a castle in his face. We won't know if that actually got stopped, because we're looking at this battle right now. Looks like the palace guards will once again take a good fight over here. This is the power of the palace guards over here against the Abbasids. The Abbasids just don't have tools to stop them in feudal age, and DeMusliM is just now reaching castle age. The castle is indeed up over here for Beasty. He's still mining stone, so he can drop a second castle soon. And at this point, it looks like he might just tower rush that hunt. Indeed, that's the case over here. He could send 1 or 2 palace guards to deal with those as well. But now, he knows fully well that his opponent, DeMusliM, is struggling to access resources. Tower is up, he's going for the Spring Autumn placements on it, which will make life difficult for DeMusliM's hunters, and I think DeMusliM is running out of berries on the north, which will also mean that his access to food will be somewhat limited. Palace guards ignoring the Camel Archer and the Town Center fire, they will just run past those buildings and head straight into the economy here. Meanwhile, those villagers trying to avoid the castle fire over here with moderate success. Some of them get taken down. Looks like another ram push on the Barbican of the Sun, but there is no escort to those rams. And now the palace guards find that corner. They know very well that that's a great spot to mine and take berries for DeMusliM, and if they can take a fight over there, take down 5, 6, 7 villagers, that's going to just increase the lead of Beasty even more. Indeed, some of the palace guards are sent in to distract the army, while the others are killing villagers. Beasty knows very well that his army is gonna get cleaned up, so he's just trying to maximize the damage output of those, and that he was quite successful in, and now he's using that distraction to try and burn down the battering rams with a couple of palace guards. Army numbers aren't spectacular for him, he's only at 14 as compared to 40 of the opponent, but he's the one consistently putting up pressure on the opponent's base, and it is making it very difficult for the Muslim to ever break out. There is a second castle worth of stone that was in the bank of Beasty just a couple of seconds ago. I assume he's dropping a second castle somewhere. If he can reinforce that Barbican with a second castle, that's going to be a disaster for DeMusliM. Especially if you consider the fact that the Chinese castle having the hand cannon emplacements on them instead of the arrow fire coming out of it is much more effective against battering rams. So taking down a Chinese castle with battering rams is much more difficult than taking down a standard castle from other civilizations. And you see, Beasty just wants to sort of surround his opponent over here. He could work towards grabbing the sacred sites now. He could control all 3 sacred sites with the Muslim having no chance to interfere. Looks like the Barbican of the Sun is slowly getting taken down. Palace guards once again jumping on the battering ram. The battering ram should be taken down over here by them indeed. Battering ram gets taken down, new one is built immediately by the forces of the Muslim. He's got enough beef to potentially burn down that Barbican, although I'm not exactly sure if he actually sees the villagers repairing it, because there's a couple of repair villagers out there. Now he spots them, all of them gets taken down, so the Barbican is gonna be gone. But of course, for the time being, Beasty is just trying to mass his forces back at home, and he's going to just ignore the Barbican of the Sun. He's going to focus on the castle over here. Indeed, he's setting up long-range springboards over here to try and take down the battering rams. Castle is being dobbed over here for the Muslim, and one thing that he was able to accomplish with this is being able to secure that gold mine, and that's going to be very valuable for him. Buys himself a lot of time. If he gets some trebuchets going, he could start thinking about contesting the other castles, but still, Beasty is slowing him down quite a bit. The thing for Beasty, however, is that I think he's still in Tang Dynasty, which means that he doesn't have the Song Dynasty villager production boost, so he's still only at 93 as opposed to 86. So he wasn't really able to build up an eco-lead, and now you see that castle damaging that ram quite heavily. That's what I was referring to. Springboard will finish it off quite easily, but I think the castle by itself would have been enough to deal with one battering ram, especially if there are no units escorting it. Beast is up to 3 relics, so he's going to have an extra gold income from that. But aside from that, the economies are quite comparable. Look at that, that's going to be Beasty taking the board, though. That's a very clever move over here from him. It's going to secure quite a lot of extra food, and he can do something very similar on the right side. He's going to be able to take the hunt over here. He's going to have the gold as well, and the sacred sites most importantly. Now, if we look at the map for a brief moment, we can notice that the only way that you get to the right side is through this crossing. So that's the only place that Beasty needs to hold. And same thing on the north. So the only way for the Muslim to neutralize those sacred sites, realistically, is to push out of his base. Sometimes you have crossings in these areas, so you can just swing in from the middle and contest those sacred sites. That's not the case on this map generation. Looks like it's going to be Beasty using the window that is created by the fact that the Muslim is pushing this castle to send in some palace guards to the gold miners. The castle is healing up those gold miners, but there is no boiling oil on the castle, so it's not going to do that much damage to the palace guards. And it looks like the Muslim hasn't realized that he's being raided just yet. Oh boy, I think he double-clicked all the villagers. All of the villagers are making a run for it, and it's possible he accidentally double-clicked them. That would be an absolute disaster. All the villagers are back in the town centers now. Now they're back to work, so crisis averted over here, but for a brief moment, all of the villagers had to run back to the town centers, as it looks like he's going to adjust the position of his army and clean up this raid. But Beasty used this distraction to start capping the sacred sites. He's got the 2 on the flanks, and now he's just waiting for the one in the middle to be captured. That's going to be the most difficult to hold, and that's going to be his key point at this point. He needs to hold the central sacred site. The 2 on the flanks will be very difficult for the opponent to push. Looks like the palace guards might actually get a couple of villager kills on that castle, but the castle is likely going up over there for the Muslim. He's going to be able to afford a second keep very soon, as indeed, we're going to have some gates coming out of this side. This will allow some raids to come in from Beasty every once in a while. He's got a decent amount of food in the bank, decent amount of gold, but the army numbers aren't spectacular right now for Beasty. Battering rams slowly cleaning up the towers over here. Beasty might have a window to take down one of those battering rams. One of those was heavily damaged, so I wonder if he did that. Rams, of course, could help a lot getting through those stone walls as well, but it's going to take quite a lot of effort to get to those sacred sites. So far, Beasty hasn't captured the third sacred site, so he hasn't started the countdown yet, which almost feels like a mistake at this point. Okay, now he has the sacred site, so he just now started a 10 minutes countdown. You get the feel that he could have started that countdown like 3-4 minutes ago, and then DeMusliM would be in a much more difficult spot. This being said, the situation is still very difficult for DeMusliM because he's going to have to wish one of those Chinese castles out there, and there's a chance that there is going to be a second castle very soon for Beasty in the middle. He also has a couple of towers fortifying in the middle with spring golden placements on them, and it looks like there might be a crossing. Holy potatoes, look at that scenic pass. I don't think that Beasty knew about that. It's very difficult to spot, but there's a crossing over here, and this is something that's completely unexpected by Beasty. The sacred site on the left side is going to get neutralized. Not a big deal right now for Beasty, but it's definitely annoying because, of course, he wants to win with a sacred site victory now, or at least force the opponent out of his base. And, well, he's going to lose that sacred site quite easily, so he's going to have to stonewall this side, making sure the enemies cannot get in. He also is stonewalling his villagers on the hunt because he's realizing that there's a realistic chance for DeMusliM for a counterattack. This, by the way, also means that the army here for DeMusliM is trapped. They're voting from the left, they're voting from the right. The only way for them to escape would be through this passage, but at least they make sure that Beasty isn't able to go with the Sacred Site victory. And we do have Imperial Age coming in. I assume it's Imperial Age for Beasty, although it could be Yuan Dynasty. Actually, it might be Yuan Dynasty. It's a little difficult to tell from the icon because it's blocked by the overlay. Here come the crossbows and the men-at-arms through that narrow passage. You can see the grass growing on that passage. That's how you know that it's walkable, but it's very difficult to spot. And Beasty is like, oh shoot, where did you guys come from? I think he's just now realizing that the enemies crossed to the sacred site over there. And it's going to be the Great Wall Gatehouse as his Imperial Age landmark. So he's up to Imp. Hand cannons are now an option. Long-range springboards, clock tower bombards. So the full arsenal available for the Chinese is now at the disposal of the Beasty. DeMusliM is spreading out his forces, but as expected, most of those will be taken down. Good move from him to distract the opponent, though. You see, he's pulling all those palace guards to the north, basically just buying himself time, making sure that Beasty is forced to pursue those. Currently, the Sacred Site countdown is not going on. DeMusliM has the resources for Imperial Age in a matter of seconds as well, so he's gonna get to Imperial. But now you get to the point where the Abbasids will start to struggle. Because the Abbasids, while they do have a good unit composition, it's not spectacular in any ways. Whereas the Chinese late game is going to be super powerful. With the Palace Guards, the Nest of Bees, of course, the Clock Tower Bombards, those will all be very difficult for the Abbasids to deal with. So, DeMusliM is facing an uphill battle over here because Beasty does have a great unit composition to work with. It looks like this castle from DeMusliM is being trapped down, not something that DeMusliM has reacted to, and this castle is now lit on fire. Imperial Age on the way for DeMusliM, he's going up with the military wing for himself. It looks like the crossbows actually survived the encounters with the palace guards, and with that, they'll be able to harass the enemy a tiny bit more. Castle gets taken down in the front here from DeMusliM, however, and you still have to keep something in mind, and that's the big gold mine locations. This and this. In theory, neutral markets are available for DeMusliM. As you see, he's got control over that side of the map, so he could technically trade, but instead he's adding a lot of stables at the back. He's running out of space as well within his own base. You see, his base is entirely crowded. So he needs to find some space for production buildings where they're rather safe, and he's going to do that on the left side. I would think he's playing Horsemen, because he's going to run long gold, but that's also a little tricky because keep in mind that this map doesn't have a lot of wood either, so you can't really afford to spam Horsemen for the next 15-20 minutes. First Clock Tower Bombard now out for Beasty, and that could help quite a lot taking down buildings. Palace Guard Elite upgrade is already in. Crossbow is the response for the time being for DeMusliM. He's got good eco upgrades, so does Beasty. Beasty also has 2 sacred sites. I really feel like Beasty could have capped that 3rd sacred site and started the countdown for like the last 3 or 4 minutes once again. And these are potentially opportunities lost, because had he started capping that sacred site again, we would be talking about DeMusliM being on a serious timer. Not the end of the world here for Beasty, because obviously he's still in a good position. He's controlling both large gold mines, and that's going to be very helpful. And he's now dropping a forward castle over here. Castle is also being placed right next to it by DeMusliM, but you're going to have Beasty setting up the trebuchets on the hill to start shelling it. Stables are up, but there is nothing coming out of those just yet. For DeMusliM, castle up for DeMusliM. On the right side, you're going to have Beasty building his own, but there is a clock tower bombard and trebuchets shelling the castle. Villagers being pulled to repair it. DeMusliM knows very well that this castle has to stay up, but it's going to be difficult to keep it alive because there is Nest of Bees coming in, there is going to be Palace Guards coming in, and with the bombards setting up against that castle, all the villagers of DeMusliM have to be pulled to save that castle out there. But there is just no army over here for DeMusliM, so now Beasty's window to run into the base of DeMusliM is just wide open. Military numbers are 79 compared to 43, and the Clock Tower Bombard is helping tremendously when it comes to taking down the castle. There is the fire from the Nest of Bees, wiping out half the villagers. The second volley is about to come in as well. Villagers now fleeing for their lives. DeMusliM did not only lose that castle over there, he also lost like 15 villagers sent into repair, and now the death is being rained upon all those villagers from the Nest of Bees. 51 military population here for DeMusliM. He's trying to get some more Lancers going, and that could work, but he needs to buy himself some more time. He's massing quite a lot of horsemen. As we speak, DeMusliM is out of gold, so this is as much as he can do Lancer-wise. He won't have much more gold to work with, so he's gonna have to work with horsemen, but he also doesn't have a ton of wood. And this is the problem right now for DeMusliM. Aside from food, he's running out of resources entirely, so he's going to struggle to add any kind of cavalry here. He's gonna have one last charge, which needs to do something. But how is he going to push back multiple castles over here? Springolds rolling up, clock tower bombards. Now they're shelling his House of Wisdom. Defensive castle being built will be taken down quite rapidly by the bombards. In fact, the palace guards are being sent to even stop it. All the villagers of DeMusliM are now being pulled to repair the House of Wisdom. Nest of Bees once again opening fire on the villagers. The castle might go up, but it will be immediately taken down in all certainty. Nest of Bees will focus down the villagers once again underneath the House of Wisdom. So many villagers falling on both directions. As now the elite lancers and the horsemen charge in here for DeMusliM. This is his last hurrah. That's all that he has got. Can he snipe enough bombards to buy himself some more time? That's the question. And you see Beasty is trying to fall back behind some stone walls over here. The bombards will be surrounded by the cavalry and taken down. Palace guards will take a fight close to the castles though. But it is two castles with boiling oil, with the hand cannon slits working. The cavalry will be successful taking down at least one of those bombards. But you get the feel that DeMusliM is going to struggle to rebuild this army. He's getting his entire cavalry wiped out by a Nest of Bees. And he's going to tap out. Beasty takes game number 4 here, and we're moving on to a decider game. Whoops, that's most definitely not the right scene by the production crew, but here we go. Even scoreline. 2-2. Great way to use the Chinese once again by Beasty here, and it's really looking like Chinese in good hands is a great civilization. We could see DeMusliM being able to prevail with them. Now it is Beasty winning with them against the Abbasids, and the key thing here in the entire game for Beasty was resource control. He simply starved his opponent out of resources, and now it is a 2-2 scenario with Beastyqt having a chance to take this set away from DeMusliM. Now, I didn't do the math on the entire bracket, but Beasty is relatively safe from elimination, so he's basically fighting for a seeding, and he's also fighting for guaranteeing his spot in the semifinals, because he's got a shot at making it to the top 2, which means that he would be in the semifinals directly. If he loses, it's not so guaranteed for him, I do believe. Whereas for DeMusliM, if he loses here, he's going to be very close to elimination, and his destiny might depend on the outcome of some other sets as well. So DeMusliM definitely needs this victory over here to feel safe, whereas for Beasty, of course he wants to grab this victory because he wants to make sure that he's going to get to that top 2 position. Welcome to game number 5, decider game between DeMusliM and Beastyqt. Spawning in on the southern part of the map, it is going to be DeMusliM playing as the English in blue, and to the north, it is going to be Beastyqt playing as the Abbasids in red. Our map that we're playing is going to be Lipany, so a rather open map here, but a map with a lot of berries on it. And this is usually the thing that you experience here now. with the players going for the Abbasids, simply because there are so many players that are just focusing on the berries nowadays with the Abbasids, which is the right thing to do, and Lipany has so many berries that you can really capitalize on your berry bonus with them. Meanwhile, on the other side, of course, for DeMusliM, he's a big fan of the English civilization, and one of the things that the English can do is be very aggressive and pin the Abbasids inside their base. We could see an aggression coming in with towers and longbows, just trying to control the map, trying to deny the access of wood to the opponent, trying to deny the access to the berries, and basically suffocate the Abbasid player, because the Abbasid player is likely going to play 2 town centers here. So the question becomes, how does the English counter that? And as I said, the most reasonable way to do that most likely is just going for longbows and towers as an aggression. Alternatively, you can think about going for a second town center yourself and focusing a lot on the farming eco with the English, but I wouldn't necessarily love that. So we'll have to see how this goes. One thing is sure, the Abbasids won't be very disappointed to fight the English here, because one thing that the English don't normally have is mobility. And on this map, mobility when it comes to playing against the Abbasids is quite vital. Because of course, if you're playing against the Abbasids, you want to be able to raid those berry patches. Look at those berries, by the way. We do have most of them on the left side. I can circle 5 berry patches over here. Some of these belong to DeMusliM, some of these belong to Beastyqt. But for Beastyqt, he's got 2 berry patches up north that are relatively safe. The rest of them, a little farther away on the far left flank. So those are the berry patches that he can utilize. House of Wisdom up already for him, and he's getting ready to go up to Feudal Age with the Economy Wing. Council Hall on the way for DeMusliM, no surprise over there for him, and he should have some longbows moving up. I didn't see a Fort Villager coming just yet, but as I said, it's not impossible that we're going to see longbows and towers from DeMusliM. Beastyqt was operating with 2 scouts, which allowed him to find pretty much all the berries across the map, and he also was quite successful gathering the sheep, so he's going to have a lot of fallback options when it comes to food. Not only does he have a lot of extra berry patches to work with, of course, with the map being Lipany, he's also going to have a lot of sheep to work with if he gets his access denied to berries. Look at that herd. 11 sheep out there. Please don't go asleep. You know, counting sheep is something that can make you fall asleep, but hopefully counting all those sheep trailing the scout of Beastyqt did not make you start to sleep. Mill placed right next to the town center for DeMusliM is a sign that he will just play very heavy on the farming eco, sort of miss the style, go heavy on the farming department, try to squeeze out a good castle age timing and then fighting castle age potentially. Keep in mind that if you get to a nice castle age timing with the King's Palace, your eco count isn't going to be that bad compared to the Abbasid players. That could be a thing to consider here. But it very much seems like DeMusliM is going to be heavy on the farming department. He's grabbing the wheelbarrow upgrade as we speak. He doesn't have a ton of sheep to work with, so that's something that also justifies starting to invest into the farming quite early, as Beastyqt is moving towards the stone mine. Looks like we're going to have a tower being dropped as a preemptive measure over here for Beastyqt. Gotta love that, because he knows very well that the English have the option to go for a tower rush themselves, and he wants to guarantee his access to stone. Now, given the fact that there is no aggression coming in from DeMusliM, he should get away mining this stone even without the defensive tower, but you have to appreciate the fact that he's playing this one safe. This is the decider game, and as I said, his position in the top 2, and with that his chance to get into the semifinals directly, basically could hang on the fact on whether or not he can secure that stone mine himself. Arrow slits in placement coming in as well for Beastyqt. Where is he having that tower at? Oh yeah, he's got the tower up front. Never mind. I got confused with the colors for a brief moment over here. He's got the tower and he's going preemptive arrow slits. Only a couple of longbows coming in from DeMusliM, so not a ton of pressure coming up in the face of the opponent. But it's something that's enough to push away Beastyqt from the wood line. He's gonna have to readjust his lumberjacks, and this is going to delay that second town center. If you look at his wood count right now, it's quite miserable. It's currently sitting at 30. So It's going to delay that second town center quite a bit, and now the access to berries has been cut off as well. Looks like a stable will be added as a reaction by Beasty, so he's going to have a couple of horsemen coming out to deal with the longbows. I did not see a spearman being added up until now by DeMusliM, so this could be something that slows down his advance, might even be able to destroy his army. Beasty still very far from that second town center of Woodvise, and that's obviously helping DeMusliM, making sure that he's not going to fall behind that much in terms of economy. Now, of course, having the archers in the Stout Forest makes it a little easier for DeMusliM to hide them from the horsemen, and currently we are only having 2 horsemen on the battlefield with no defense upgrades on them. DeMusliM also doesn't have a single blacksmith upgrade, as it seems that Beasty is done mining stone, so he's getting ready to drop that town center once he has the wood for it. There's the blacksmith coming in for DeMusliM, and I would think that he's going to go very aggressive on the siege department, so siege engineering could be an upgrade that he grabs early. Looks like he's opening with the attack upgrade on longbows for the time being. Gotta love that combat sheep being mixed into that army. This poor sheep is just pursuing the scout that's helping the longbows, but I guess he's going to be Benny the combat sheep, helping out those longbows, at least as an emotional support. Horsemen are now coming out. I think DeMusliM has spotted the stables, so he's probably playing this one carefully. He's calling off his forces for the time being, and now the reinforcements are being picked apart, so DeMusliM will have to add a barracks for himself, but that's not something that he has. He decided to go for a blacksmith, which means that he doesn't really have the wood right now to add a barracks. So he did not expect the horsemen to come in here, and because of that, he's going to get pushed all the way back into his base. Now, once the longbows get the attack upgrade, as long as those horsemen don't have the range defense upgrade, especially with the villagers being nearby that can also shoot arrows, the horsemen should not be able to do that much damage to the eco of DeMusliM. But of course, it's going to slow down DeMuslim's aggression, and with that, you will have the horsemen retreating into the base of Beasty. Beasty is dropping the town center all the way up north on a new patch of berries. That's somewhat risky because you're basically separating your starting base from this location, and that could have consequences later on because you could have one of your bases isolated from the other. The good news with this for now is that it's going to secure an additional patch of berries, and that's something that Beasty will be very happy about. Longbows crawling up on that first forest out there. Beasty once again has to adjust the location of his lumberjacks. One villager gets picked off on the wood line. That's the first villager casualty of the game, I do believe. But the bigger accomplishment here for DeMusliM is that he was able to delay that second town center for a considerable amount of time. And with that, Beasty is just now starting to build up that extra villager advantage that he could have over the English player. Now, behind this one, DeMusliM didn't have a spectacular economy himself, but he's slowly adding a good farming eco for himself, so he's going to be fine in the long run. But at this point, DeMusliM still needs to make something happen, otherwise, Beasty is just going to outboom him. You're going to have a forward tower coming in the Stout Forest. This is going to be a great staging ground for an attack, and it looks like Beasty has no idea about that force over there. He's lucky to turn around, because if he just gets over there, the longbows would have picked off four horsemen. Some of those horsemen are heavily damaged, so the longbows would have picked off 2 or 3 of them right with the first couple of volleys, and then the leftover would have been just killed by the longbowmen in battle. So Beast is actually lucky that he turned back with those horsemen out there. Archer range now being added by Beasty, so he's going to play with the composition of likely horsemen and camel archers. This is a composition that we commonly see from Abbasids nowadays, because the camel archers are very effective against spearmen. Now, one thing that he does not know is that there is not a single spearman for DeMusliM, and that's getting overly concerning, because once you have the range defense upgrade for those horsemen, it's going to be very difficult for DeMusliM to take good fights against horsemen, and this is one of the things that he had issues with day number 1 of the Swiss stage. It was an Altai game, I remember, and he was just so stubbornly going for the longbows, and in the end he got away with that. It was also against Abbasids, I believe, but there were some scary moments in the game for him. And the reason why is because he's basically not responding to the units of the opponent, and let's be honest, the horseman is a counter unit to longbows. Longbows are scary in large masses, but when you have 20-25 horsemen jumping on your longbows, you're going to be in for a tough time. And I get the feel that DeMusliM is just not adding spearmen over here because he believes a little too much in those longbows. Horseman numbers still increasing right now for Beasty. He's trying to buy himself as much time as possible, and it looks like he's just going to add archers for the time being. Horseman will try to jump on that battering ram, will be able to get away with a couple of torches before the longbows close the distance. This is the moment where Beasty is going to see how many longbows his opponent has, and I'm not gonna lie, that's a scary force of longbowmen out there. Repair Villager is being sent in to keep that tower alive as long as possible, and you see that Beasty is realizing that he needs to have the defense upgrade in. He's just now grabbing that upgrade for himself. Poor Villager repairing the tower is gonna get taken down. Tower is gone, which opens up a possibility for DeMusliM to hit the other wood line, and that's where things are getting scary for Beasty. This is match point over here, Beasty trying to get some more archers for himself, but it's gonna be all about those horseman numbers because the only unit that DeMusliM has is longbows. So one good, large group of horsemen can wipe this out. It's all about how you time this push. For Beasty, he needs to be as patient as humanly possible, because the longer he waits, the better fight he can take with the horsemen against the longbows. If he's a little too impatient and he jumps on that army too early, he's going to lose all his horsemen to the longbows. He's got the range defense upgrade already. He's trying to take down the battering ram. That's going to buy him some time. And indeed, it looks like he's taking down the battering ram, loses 2 horsemen in the process, has a couple more damaged, but ultimately buys himself some more time. Beasty is not impossibly far away from Castle Age, by the way. He's sitting at 800 food, but quite low on gold. His wood count isn't looking spectacular either, and now his window seems to be closing. Because as you see now, DeMusliM is adding some spears. He's realizing that his opponent is going exclusively for horsemen, and once the spearman numbers increase, Beasty is in for a tough time, because that big group of longbowmen supported by 15 or so spearmen, that should be enough to repel any kind of aggression from those horsemen, even if you have a couple of archers here for Beasty. Army numbers 45 to 24, and I feel like the window for Beasty to take this fight is rapidly closing. Even just a couple of spearmen appearing on the battlefield will help immensely for those longbows, especially given the fact that you already have the Network of Castles bonus expanded all the way into the base of Beasty, thanks to those towers being up there. Towers also having arrow slits and placements on them, so some extra firepower is there for DeMusliM, and now Beasty is in the danger of losing houses, and as you see his population cap, that's going to be concerning. He's at 82 out of 90, losing that house will mean that he's going to start losing population space. I think he's preemptively rebuilding them elsewhere, because he knows that he's going to lose them. And in this scenario, that's the right thing to do. He needs to preemptively rebuild them, because he knows very well that he cannot save these houses. He's waiting for one big fight to be taken here. He's got quite a lot of archers going on, but the horseman numbers aren't necessarily spectacular. Another house being targeted right now by DeMusliM. Beasty is waiting as long as possible. But the problem here for him is that the opponent's army numbers are also increasing quite rapidly. So not only is he building up his own army, he's also giving a window for DeMusliM to bring back the spearmen. And with that, now this unit composition, what is that? 25-ish horsemen and about 15 archers, as opposed to what seems to be 30 plus longbows and 10 plus spearmen. That's a fight that DeMusliM should be able to win, especially with the help of the tower fire. Beasty's got the melee attack upgrade as well, so he's waiting for as many horsemen to pile up, waiting for all the upgrades to come in. Beasty has just now gotten the ranged attack upgrade. It's becoming a now or never scenario because his gold mine is getting denied. I think he's about to take this fight, especially with the new battering ram coming in here for DeMusliM. Patience is key here for Beasty, and I think he's ready to fight in a matter of seconds. Here comes the cavalry, the last hurrah here potentially for Beasty. He loses this fight, he loses this set, he's going to jump on the battering rams, throw a couple of torches, call off the cavalry once again. He's going to wait a little bit more, and the moment those rams push a little deeper, he's going to try and snipe them. He's going to get away with no ram snipes here, losing quite a lot of horsemen in the process. He tried to finish off one of those rams, but the ram survives at low HP, 31 to be precise. Once again, he's going to wait for some more horsemen to come in here. He's preemptively rebuilding the houses, knowing that he's losing it. He's just stretching this out as long as possible. Behind this one, DeMusliM hasn't shown the spearmen yet. He's hiding them in the stealth forest, and he's waiting for the opponent to charge him with the cavalry. That's where DeMusliM is going to show the spears, and that will be a nasty surprise for Beasty here. Battering rams now knocking on the House of Wisdom, and here it goes. The big battle for the game coming in. Beasty is charging him with the cavalry. He's probably going to try and jump on those longbows, but here come the spearmen. The horsemen will try to take down the rams. Numbers looking much better for DeMusliM here, and here come the spears into the battle. 4 towers, all with the network of castles bonus helping those longbows, and a narrow choke point, something that helps so much because it's difficult for those horsemen to squeeze through that. Spearman now bracing against the impact of the horseman, and it is just impossible right now for Beastyqt to focus down all those spears. The tower fire, the longbow fire, and the spearman will just massacre all the horsemen here from Beastyqt, and his counterattack is getting repelled without a question here. 24 army remaining for Beastyqt, 61 for DeMusliM, and now his way of pushing the game could be there, and he's making a siege tower. That's the sign that you want your opponent to resign, a siege tower being placed right next to the opponent's base. We have seen that before in the tournament. The siege tower is crawling up, and it's gonna be there saying, okay, it's time to leave this game, my friend, because I have the series. DeMusliM pushing up with 2 battering rams against the town center. Beastyqt will try to build one more force to try and fight this one, but his limited time might be, in fact, it's very likely it is going to be insufficient to build up an army large enough to fight this. And that siege tower just camping right next to the town center, moving left and right. Beastyqt comes in with the last hurrah, but he doesn't have enough to fight this one. That's clear and obvious. 34 army versus 68. His army is gonna get taken down. He might be able to take down one of those battering rams, but at this point, he's going to have to sacrifice most of his army to do that. Takes down 1 battering ram. A second one could be taken down too, but it looks like with all the villagers being pulled, with all the army being pulled, that's going to be the army of Beastyqt going down the drain. He still has the villager advantage, but he has no tools of stopping this push inside his base. He's at the risk of losing his landmarks at this point, because he simply cannot stop the opponent's army. Obviously, he's trying to leverage that villager lead as long as possible, trying to get some more army on the field. He's lacking production, one of the biggest problems for him. He's got 800 food in the bank, but he's unable to produce more army because he's lacking production buildings. Longbows once again, with the network of castles bonus, will focus down the horsemen, and it looks like the siege tower is being burnt down by the villagers as well. But once again, you take down 1 battering ram, losing so many horsemen over here for Beastyqt, and his opponent is crawling closer and closer to that town center. All the horsemen are now gone, battering ram still knocking on that town center. And at this point, you might even consider sending in the spears if you're DeMusliM, because you have the critical mass to just run underneath the castle and start taking it down. Looks like a castle age is coming in. That's why Beastyqt is not giving up. He's trying to buffer up and wait for castle age. He's going up with the culture ring. Now, you can see that wing being built on the House of Wisdom. So, DeMusliM should be able to spot that, and if he somehow gets to castle age, some men-at-arms could maybe save the day. But there's a big question here. What's going to be left out of your base by the time you get to castle? The town center is getting taken down here, and if the House of Wisdom was the primary target for DeMusliM, he could have even stopped that Imperial or that Castle Age progress. Villagers now on the gold mine getting picked apart. Beastyqt does have 1,000 gold to work with, 1,500 food, but does he have the production to get any kind of army on the battlefield? He's trying to respond to this one with mangonels, but he's at the risk of losing the House of Wisdom now. I don't think he has time to build that mangonel up over there. By the time the mangonel rolls up to the battlefield, the House of Wisdom could be taken down. Second battering ram coming in as the longbows do the battering ram dance. House of Wisdom at 5,000 HP. It's now or never here. Beastyqt. He needs to somehow save that landmark. About 4,500 HP left over there. 2 battering rams knocking on it. Villagers have to be pulled to repair. That's the only hope here for Beastyqt. He's pulling in the mangonel, but that's still far from the battlefield. You see, he's just now crawling up. And now the House of Wisdom is on fire. I think if you are DeMusliM, you just commit to this. Even with the mangonel being out there, you probably send in the spearmen to rush it down, and then just try to take down the House of Wisdom. Villagers now being pulled by Beastyqt. It's a now or never. The HP is below 10%. All the villagers are being pulled. Mangonel fire opening up on the longbows. Longbows spreading out, however. Villagers now being sent to repair the House of Wisdom, but the battering rams are poking away at this one, and the villagers won't be able to repair fast enough. The House of Wisdom is going down here. The mangonel getting picked off by the spearman, and in just a matter of seconds, Beastyqt is losing his second landmark. DeMusliM takes the entire set 3-2. What a crazy ending for this one. Absolutely spectacular performance by both players in this set. And really, it came down the wire. Beastyqt was so close to potentially stopping this one multiple times, but he was always outnumbered by the forces of DeMusliM. Almost got up to Castle Age, and I think if he has just one more minute in Castle Age of a window, he could have had enough to push this one back. With 2 or 3 mangonels, he could have stopped this one. He was just not given enough breathing room. DeMusliM, the moment he saw his opponent was in Castle Age, he knew that this is the time to strike. And with that, DeMusliM is going to take down Beastyqt, which makes it much more interesting at the top of the bracket. because I'm not exactly sure if Beastyqt is going to be guaranteed a spot in the semifinals now. He's most definitely going to be in the playoffs, but his position, his seed in the playoffs is going to be a question. DeMusliM taking a big victory over here, and in the end, with a sort of mixed performance in the first 5 rounds, DeMusliM should be able to secure a playoff position for himself with this one. In the first day, DeMusliM took down Viper 3-1. Then he lost to Marine Lord 3-0, lost to Mista 3-0, so it looked grim for DeMusliM. Then he takes down Lucifron 3-0, and now takes down Beastyqt 3-2. And with that, DeMusliM should be able to secure a position for himself. And as things stand, if I'm looking at the updated brackets, and if all the information I'm receiving is correct, this secures Beastyqt the second spot still. So based on the tiebreaker criteria, he's still ahead of DeMusliM. So DeMusliM is in the playoffs, but he will have to play the quarterfinals, whereas Beastyqt is now guaranteed a spot in the semifinals. This being said, spectacular set here. And with that, DeMusliM takes the win here 3-2.